Join us on the Path Radio Mix online. And to get there, type in thepathradio.com. That's thepathradio.com. And enjoy free streaming music all day long. That's it. thepathradio.com. All right, now let's get to the main show, the monthly social podcast with me, your host, Guido Perino, as you go on with Guido. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Go On with Guido podcast. This is the May edition. Great lineup for you today. We've got multi-talented author Alexandra Dotcheva, who's going to talk to us about self-confidence and give us insights from her new book. Then you're going to get plexed by Hale, the leader of the country urban pop Canadian band, the Whythouse. We've got Cam from Tirecraft, who's here to give us tips on spring and summer car maintenance, and then content on bone conduction, how to improve your home internet, and then we're going to go on a goose chase. Now let's go! Now, before we get going, a quick word from one of our friends of the podcast, Johnny Prosciutto. Johnny Prosciutto, artisanal Italian homemade products. We make it like our grandfather, or as we say, Nonno. Naturally cured, old-fashioned, and delicious. The best part? We deliver straight to your front door. We offer free shipping when spending over $99. Order online at johnnyprosciutto.com and stay safe. And when you use the code GOGUIDO, you're going to save $10 off your entire order. That's the code GOGUIDO on johnnyprosciutto.com. And the Johnny Prosciutto stuff is really good. We've ordered it a bunch of times, and waiting on my spring order now. Going to get some fresh sausage along with some salami and cacciatore sausage. So if you're interested or into that stuff, check them out. It's really cool. And the code helps you get a little bit of a discount too. I'm going to kick the show off today with a really cool intro on a device I've been using that uses the technology called bone conduction. And I'm excited about it. That's why I want to kick the show off about it. I'm excited about it because I've been trying it for a few months, and I was at the point where I wanted to share it with everybody. So I wrote an article about it, and I'm going to read that to you, and we'll talk a little bit about it. Here we go. So I want to share with you an article that's based on something personal. For the better part of my life, I've not been able to hear out of one ear, which is interesting and amazing and a whole bunch of other things all at the same time. But when you have a condition where like this, you're always looking for, solutions. And of course, there's things like hearing aids and whatnot, but not everybody can use hearing aids. I found something that is a little different, and I wrote an article about it after trying this product for a while, and I wanted to share that with you. The article is on my blog at guidoperino.com/blog. And I'll share the link with you at the end of the segment here, but I'm going to read it to you, and it's called Hearing Like You've Never Heard Before. After 40 plus years of being completely deaf in one ear, I heard. This isn't some sort of enlightened metaphor. I really heard from both sides of my head. If you have difficulty hearing, suffer from tinnitus, fight with hearing aids, or are worried about impacting your eardrums using earbuds, then you'll want to read on about my experience with this new technology. Through an operation gone wrong when I was a child, I was left deaf in one ear. It's been so long that I don't even remember hearing with both, and a hearing aid wouldn't help my situation because the eardrum was all but gone. To make matters worse, I recently developed slight tinnitus. Having that investigated through a hearing clinic brought me to the discovery of bone conduction. What is bone conduction? The way that our hearing works under normal conditions is that sound travels through the opening in our ear, the outer ear, into the hearing canal and finds its way to the eardrum. The eardrum then converts whatever sound it received into vibrations. From there, a series of events continue through the middle and inner ear, specifically the cochlea, which is connected to the auditory nerve, sending messages to the brain. Now, bone conduction takes a different path, a detour, if you will. The sound is received by the bones in your skull or face and transmitted through vibration directly to the inner ear, the cochlea, avoiding the outer and middle ear. The use of bone conduction devices shouldn't be confused with a cochlear implant, which may have some similarities, but serves a different function when it comes to how it interacts with the parts of the ear. The bone conduction technology. While you can have surgery to achieve bone conduction hearing benefits that are more complete, there are also some less invasive devices you can use for day-to-day functions as perhaps a first step. The device I've tried along with friends and family is the Aftershokz Open Move Wireless Bone Conduction Open Ear Bluetooth Waterproof Sports Headphones. These headphones connect through Bluetooth to a smartphone, a smart TV, or any other output device that has Bluetooth capability, including your computer. What's in the box? The package I purchased came with the headphones, a soft carry pouch, a USB-C charging cable, and earplugs. I'll explain more about each item and the whole system so you can get a better sense of my personal experience. A closer look at what you get. The headphones are lightweight, flexible, and soft. They're also rigid enough that they rest on your head without falling. They have a volume up and down button on the left arm, and along with a covered charging port. There is a touch-enabled button integrated into the right arm that helps you answer calls or play a song with one touch, skip songs with two, and go backwards with three. Connecting the headphones to my phone and TV took less than 5 minutes through the normal Bluetooth connection procedures. I've also typically used the device for about 6 to 8 hours before I needed to recharge the battery, and that has remained consistent over the last few months. The carry bag is a nice addition that keeps the headphones dust-free and adds convenience to portability. There is an easy drawstring at the top that helps ensure the headphones stay secured. The USB-C charging cable plugs into any standard USB charging port, or you can add a wall unit to it as well. The earplugs inclusion confused me at first as I couldn't figure out why I would need them. Then I learned that if you can hear from your ears under normal condition, the earplugs help block out additional noise so that you could focus on what you hear through bone conduction. Recommendation. If you're unsure about bone conduction as a more permanent solution, this device is a great way to acquaint yourself to the technology. There is an instant return on investment regardless your medical condition, if any. Keep in mind that this device allows you to use bone conduction by connecting to a source, a phone, a TV, a computer. To achieve full bone conduction hearing, you would need to investigate surgery for a more permanent option. If you can already hear from both ears, you could still benefit from them and help avoid some of the concerns earbuds pose to hearing impairment as well as canal obstructions. The headphones do take some getting used to, especially if you can hear out of both or even one ear, and may take a few uses for your brain to adjust to information potentially coming through multiple paths. Like orthotics, introducing them a little bit at a time has proven to be the most effective way to make it an even more positive experience. I didn't use the earplugs. It's important to remember that we all adjust at different levels and pace, so finding your own comfort and approach is important. Some final thoughts. There are only good things I can say about this product and the positive impact it has had. I have been able to hear my elderly parents for the first time in decades, my children's voices, and notes to some of my favorite songs that I never heard before with both ears by connecting to them through my phone. I could truly say that I have heard like I have never heard before, and I hope you can have a similar experience. This is an opinion article by me, Guido Perino, of the Go On With Guido podcast. So there's an introduction to this bone conduction technology. And you could read the article, guidoprino.com. You go to the blog section, and it's the one called Hearing Like You've Never Heard Before. There's links there to the product. And of course, there's some graphics as well in terms of the anatomy of the ear. You can see pictures of the product. There's some links to the product and whatnot if you're interested. But it has changed the way that I interact. And it has given me a good idea of what, bone conduction would do for me. And the realization that, you don't have to not be able to hear to take advantage of this. I know people who have decided that they're going to use this device just to listen to podcasts or to listen to music on their phone, as opposed to sticking the earbuds in your ears, which we know impacts your eardrums over time. So anyways, check it out. I hope you enjoy it and you learn something from it. Okay, now I'd like to get over to our first guest, Alexandra Dotcheva. I would like to welcome to the show multi-talented professional Alexandra Dotcheva, a doctor of musical arts and violin performance, registered nurse, and now author of the book, It Is Really Simple, A Holistic Approach to Self-Confidence. All of which we're going to talk with her about today. An exciting journey where we can learn from her experience and perhaps use it to chart our own path. Alexandra, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining me today. And how are you doing?
Hi, Guido. I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm completely excited, and I'm excited about the book that you wrote, and I'm excited about your story. I think our listeners are going to get a lot from it. So if I can, I'd like to dive right in. Can we dive right in?
Of course.
Hey, right on. I want to start at the beginning with you. I want to start, if you can tell us a little bit about your journey that started with music back in Bulgaria, I believe, correct?
Yes, correct.
Can we start there?
Yes, actually, my violin career started at age 6. It was primarily my mother's idea. We were in Mexico for 3 years between my age of 3 and 6, and then she got the idea that I had to become a violinist. My dad was a double bass player. He passed away, unfortunately, but he wasn't very convinced. But she thought if I had a good orchestra job, I would be very well off and be able to travel and see places and meet interesting people, which in the early 80s was completely plausible. Communism was still a trend in Bulgaria at that time, and there were orchestras and everything. She didn't know what would happen with culture after the regime dissolved in 1989. Nobody could predict that. But I did start violin at age 6, and my father was mostly practicing with me for quite a few hours every day. His patience, I will never forget, and my tears, of course. But I got accepted to music school for the first grade, and I went through the 12th grade with all the entry examinations and whatnot. Mostly studying music subjects. It was a very limited environment in the sense that you only learned music, and you really weren't prepared by the 8th grade when people were choosing their professions, right? You pretty much could do nothing but music. So I decided to continue with music. I really loved it at the time. I was considered among the good players in my class and in the school. I graduated, then I got my bachelor's degree in the conservatory in Sofia. And then I left for the United States to earn my master's and doctoral degrees. I arrived here in 2000. I got my doctorate in 2007. And then I saw how the market was crumbling for musicians in the United States, because here there isn't governmental support for orchestras like they have in Germany, Italy, and these civilized countries, right? That cherish art and they have these rich traditions. In the United States, it wasn't like that. So in 2006, we saw orchestras starting to downsize, bankrupting. There were these new business models that came with managers designed to be more efficient and more profitable than actually accommodate the requirements of the music, the compositions, the intentions of the composers that, were wrote for the symphony orchestra. So they became smaller and smaller, and many of them bankrupted. So in 2007, I earned my doctoral degree. By then, I knew that people could not get a full-time orchestra job for 10 to 15 years, auditioning here and there. And paying all the expenses for the auditions. And I figured, well, it really isn't fair for me to teach music to people and tell them, hey, it might be 10 years before you score a job. That really didn't seem ethical at the time. And then in 2008, two of my very talented, they were peers, classmates. Well, they were younger than me, but in the same class with the same professor that we had at Louisiana State University. I learned that one of them had gone into finance and the other one had gone into medical school to become a surgeon like his parents. After having graduated very prestigious music schools with master's degrees, and I was shocked. I'm like, how come they are doing this, not thinking they're competitive enough? And I'm not a player as good as they are. I was a decent player, but they were way better than me. And that really was like a slap on the face. And in 2008, I thought I really probably should think of something different after having been a musician for 26 years. I had no science base, nothing. But there were two other musicians I knew that, ironically, violinists also, who had become, one had already been a nurse and she was still playing part-time in our orchestra. And another one was a former relative of mine who decided to pursue a nursing career. And I said, well, if they can, why can't I? It was a shorter studying program because between 2 and 3 years, you can get a nursing degree. Mind you, I had been in college for 11 years by then, and I didn't want another 4 or 5 or 6 years in college because I had to enter the workforce as a full-time working person so I can get some confidence that I can earn a normal salary that every normal person can earn. I was employed with the Syracuse Symphony Orchestra part-time at the time, and figured that real life was something that I really had no idea about. And I thought, okay, if I start doing nursing, I go through all these prerequisite classes, I'll get the degree. Because I have a very strong work ethic. I was practicing between 7 and 9 hours a day. So I figured I can study between 7 and 9 hours a day. I'll get the degree.
Even then, you were practicing 7 to 9 hours. At
Correct.
That point, your music.
If you're a professional, you have to practice. Otherwise, your colleagues in the orchestra will tell that you're not practicing. So you have to have the work ethic to sustain your skills.
And forgive me, is orchestra, would you say orchestra is different than other forms of music then? Is the amount of practice required for orchestra different than rock and roll or than other types of music?
I have no idea because I've never been a rock and roll musician. I really cannot answer this question, honestly. But if you're in this very competitive classical music world, you're auditioning against 40 to 500 people for a single spot. You're playing behind a curtain for 10 minutes for one round. And you have to be in a top shape. You really have to maintain your skills. And it shows immediately when you stop maintaining your skills. And I was never a natural talent to begin with. With anything I have done, I've never been a natural talent. Whatever I have achieved is with a lot of work, and I don't mind it now, but it was really detrimental to my self-confidence at the time when all these things were happening. Because I was...
Well, you said, and I'm sorry, you started when you were 6 years old. And it sounds like your father, who was playing with you, when you were that young, doing that, did you start to think someday I'm going to be on stage, or that I want to be on stage?
It was my dream, of course, when I listened to Jascha Heititz, Henrik Schering, Perlman, all these phenomenal violinists, right? I wanted very much to be a concertizing musician on stage, and I practiced all these hours, but I didn't have the patience to really work out the detail properly, which I realized way later. And my father was constantly on me for that. He says, you're not practicing right. You're rushing your practice. You're spending lots of hours when you can be spending much less time than what you're doing. I didn't believe him. Who believes their parents? Nobody, especially when you're a teenager. What do you know, right? He was right. Unfortunately, he was right. And I knew when then the stage fright came in my early 20s. Very, very bad stage fright.
Let me talk about that for a second, because I wanted to get to the book in a few questions, but there was something that I want to quote from that, if I can. You said in your new book, I struggled with stage fright for several years. I was able to give decent recitals, but the orchestra auditions continued to be the absolute most dreaded events for me. Not surprisingly, I avoided auditions like the plague. That's some pretty strong emotion that you put into words. In your 20 plus years as a musician, I think you said 26, right?
Yes.
Did you overcome the stage fright? Did you realize later when you were writing the book, like what that was rooted in, or what the path was for you?
Yes, to an extent. The stage fright improved, but it was a constant clash with my sense of guilt once I met my integrity, that I realized that I had spent so many years practicing the wrong way, with the wrong focus. And then when you add the stage fright for several years, that creates a very bad history within yourself, like a bad track record that you become more and more doubtful that you can ever overcome. And when I realized that I really wasn't competitive enough at age 32 to continue in a shrinking symphony market, and I decided to embark on a completely new profession, I vowed to myself that I was not going to be mediocre ever again in my studying, in my practice of nursing, anything. It was very difficult because it was a brand new thing. And so my parents, when they heard on the phone, they were absolutely petrified. And my mother said, "Do you realize what a hard profession you're getting into? And you have no science basis or anything." And I said, "I know, mother, but I need something new, because if I don't challenge my brain now, I will have deep regrets 30 years from now. I don't want to earn my bread as a musician anymore," although I remained a musician until I graduated in 2011. So, and that's exactly when the Syracuse Symphony Orchestra bankrupted in 2011. And I had a job waiting for me in the ICU upon graduation. But studying does.
So I was going to ask, Alexandra, I was going to actually ask you, I was going to say, at some point you made the switch. So, you were having your experiences as a musician, but you made a switch. You wanted to switch things up. And you went from music to pursuing a career as a health professional. You had moved, it sounded you had already moved to the United States when that happened, right?
Yes.
Right. And so now you've been a registered nurse for over a decade, I believe.
Correct.
And I was going to say, well, what motivated you to make the change, or how did you manage that transition? Having stage fright and the confidence and some of the challenges you were having as a musician, how did you manage the confidence of the transition to that career move? I mean, you said right now, talking to your parents, they were like, what are you doing? Right? Like, are you sure? Like, this sounds like a big thing. You were in a new country. You're going to transition from something that you've been doing for 26 years to a new profession, new culture, new life. Yeah, there's got to be some insights there.
Yes.
Right? Like, how did you make that decision? That's a big life decision. What brought you to that point?
I didn't feel I was helpful enough to people as a musician. And I realized I had no clue about real life as a musician. I thought that nursing would fill both these gaps. And I turned out to be painfully correct about that.
You want to expand on that a little bit? Painfully correct?
Human suffering is something that being in touch with that at all times grounds you very well, quickly. And then you realize that the system has its own way to handling disease. It's not all about helping people. I quickly realized the horrendous tendency of profiting extensively from the chronic diseases of Americans, which are plaguing the society: heart disease, diabetes type 2, cancer, neurological disorders. And I also saw how the system was treating nurses and doctors to an extent. I saw that many of the nurses were sicker than some patients, yet they were teaching about health, all these patients. And I'm like, how is this system supposed to work and make people healthy if you have morbidly obese nurses all over the place with hypertension, cancer, diabetes, eating horrendous food, fast food. And the hospital cafeterias have bad food choices and occasional vegan, vegetarian sandwich, right? But and then you see that many of these nurses are broke financially. They have no problem talking about it. I was shocked. The first 2 years, like, oh my God, what an eye-opener. So how are you a nurse? You have this seniority of 20 years plus, and you have this handsome salary that I could only dream of as a musician, and you're broke. What are you doing? Why are you so unhealthy? So I started asking these questions in my head. Of course, you can't confront your colleagues like that when you're a new nurse. No way, because they know everything, right? And then I went into investing because I realized that the nursing salary is nice, but eventually you have to learn how to expand your money with means other than a job if you don't want to work until you're 80 years old. In the 2008 crash, obviously, so many thousands of people lost their retirements in the stock market. So I went into real estate investing. I bought rental properties. I manage my own. I have 3 rental businesses on top of my full-time nursing job. And options trading, I do that too. And it's been great to have control over your finances in a way that you don't depend on a job if you think that your employer is asking you to do unethical things that you have to comply with just to keep your job. I think we're all familiar now with the situation the last 2 years, what happened, right?
So you're doing the investing and the trading while you're a nurse as well.
Correct.
I got to ask you something else. Is it easier knowing what you went through as a musician, knowing your experiences in nursing? Is it easier to be a musician or a nurse?
Okay, before Alexandra answers that, let's hear a quick message from one of our friends of the podcast.
Recipes at My Table is a work of family, love of food, and sharing of stories. The stories keep the memories alive and make every day a party in my kitchen. Join me for the sharing of traditional Italian recipes and so much more. Visit me at www.recipesatmytable.com.
So I had just asked Alexandra if it's easier to be an artist or a nurse. Let's listen in on that.
I got to ask you something else. Is it easier knowing what you went through as a musician, knowing your experiences in nursing? Is it easier to be a musician or a nurse?
None of them are easy if you want to do them right and well. Nothing is easier. I really can't answer that question because as a nurse, you have all this power in your hands to keep a patient alive, depending where you work, or you have to recognize, because in my case, I'm a home care nurse, but I have to be able to recognize when a patient has to go to a hospital with a life-threatening condition. Mm-hmm. So this is extreme responsibility. That's not easy. There is no stage fright involved, but it's a very different type of responsibility because you're responsible to the patient and their family. So none of these is easy to do.
Yeah,
but that's okay.
I guess as I sort of listen and internalize what you're saying, whatever the commitment that you decide that you're going to put forward really defines how easy or difficult you want to make it, or it can be. I mean, if you care enough,
right?
If you care enough, there's a lot to deal with in either profession, whether you're a musician or whether
exactly
you're a health person.
I can add to that with age and experience, you're less afraid of the difficult stuff. And with investing, I've learned to pursue difficulty because that's what makes me grow and has grown my self-confidence and self-esteem, which I had problems with for 20 years. So when it's difficult, it's good if you solve the problem, especially if it's a problem that I've told other people that have interviewed me, I don't want to repeat myself too much, but if it's a problem that you previously thought unsolvable or a goal that you thought unreachable and you embark on that to reach the goal, to solve that problem, that's what builds you as a person. That's what makes you a stronger person, not avoiding problems like I used to do forever when I was a violinist.
It's the resiliency, right? You use your experiences, you build resiliency.
That's it.
And you tackle it and you don't be afraid of it. And whatever the outcome is, then you have to decide, I guess, what your next path might be and how you tackle that is. You came to another path, which is the book, right? I think over a decade after you became a nurse, you released a book. And I think the date was December 1st, 2021.
Yes, very recent.
It is called It Really Is Simple, A Holistic Approach to Self-Confidence. And I'm seeing a lot of that in our conversation today with you, by the way. But in the book, you wrote, "For over 20 years, I struggled with a lack of faith in the single most important entity that would bring me success in any area of life I wished. That entity was me. That's quite profound, self-reflective and profound, and incredibly courageous for you to put on paper for others to read. It's a powerful realization. What brought you to that moment?
The switch in professions. I realized that nobody was going to help me if I wasn't going to help myself and take responsibility for all my decisions, my life. Stop complaining. Well, that took a while. We make the decision, but it doesn't automatically transpire into this wonderful person you want to be. We struggle all life with the things that we ingrained in our brains since childhood. But once you start accomplishing your goals, you get more and more confident that you can do more and more and more and reach your dreams. But I am all about self-independence and self-reliance. And the book came because people were asking me how I was doing this and that, the health, the fitness, my health is 100%, I own it from A to Z. I don't make, like anybody makes health decisions for me. I have been a uncompromising whole foods organic vegan for 4.5 years now. We don't get sick in our house. And the fitness is a big part of it. So health is huge if you want to be successful in everywhere else, to have the energy to accomplish the other goals. Career, by being helpful to other people, is your realization in your profession. But then the finances is your plan for what you do when you get old, right? So you start working on this very early. And it is a plan. The investment plan is a very strict path that you predetermine and you follow it. And again, I'm very independent with that also. I don't trust anybody with my money. I do my own trades. I manage my own properties. I have 3 LLCs as a real estate owner. I have excellent relationship with my residents of my properties because I respect them and we mutually respect each other. I don't bank on my tenants for the sake of just making atrocious amount of money now, taking advantage of the situation that so many other landlords do. And I keep my business relationship with my residents for years. And this helps in any other aspect. So you're just consistent with what you do, with whatever you decide to do.
It's motivating just to listen to you talk about it, to like the aspect of that you've taken such control over so many different parts of your life. And it seems like you went through some analysis and you built a plan and you said, I need to do this and I need to do this. And then you went and did it. And I'm not trying to make it sound easy by any stretch of the imagination, because I think I've heard you say a few times now, as a musician, you have to practice. You have to practice or they're going to know that you're not good. And, as a nurse, I have to understand. I have to have compassion. I have an awareness of my environment. As an investor, I have to understand the market. I have to understand what my goals are. I have to know how to go and achieve that. I do understand this, and just through reading some of your materials, that your mission is to help people overcome self-imposed limitations. You've talked about some of those.
Absolutely.
You said it's easy to, Guido, it's easy to complain. Once you start complaining, that's easy to do, right? And you can kind of get in a rut about it. That might prevent them from realizing their goals. When we're talking about people, why did it become so important to you to help other people? And you've set up the environment a little bit for us when you talked about how you noticed how people were living or not living, and how they were taking care of themselves or not taking care of themselves. So why is it important to you? Do you draw on those experiences
I hate to see the fear in people from what's going to happen when their health deteriorates and they won't be able to pay for their bills. Because in this country, healthcare is the most profitable business and the biggest reason for personal bankruptcy. I'm not saying that government health is better, because I lived through government healthcare in Bulgaria during socialism. That was absolutely disastrous. But it motivates me because I got so scared that I wouldn't have control over anything in my life when I hit rock bottom in 2008. Because at that point, not only did I decide to switch careers, but also I went through a divorce. That was really a bad icing of the cake. So when you feel that you are under you have no control over anything in your life, that motivates you or crushes you. In my case, it motivated me. So I thought that with the book, I can help other people get motivated instead of getting crushed if they are in a midlife crisis like I was in my early 30s. Because usually when you pass 30, you realize that, oh, I don't have much to show for. I better get my stuff together, right, and do something about it. Some people experience that after they hit 40 or after they hit 35. It's different with everybody. But once you get there, the book is to just show you that it's not impossible. It's completely doable once you switch your mindset. Then it becomes easy. If you can keep the mindset consistent, that's when it gets easy. But once you have reached the realization that you have to switch the mindset and you do it, you never go back. You never look back.
So you're hitting on a couple of themes, if I can call them that. I think you call them pillars. In the book, you provide readers with insight on, I think there's 5 pillars of life that, we could use attention to help put our life back in order. I'm going to assume, but I think you're going to probably correct me or tell me if those are the 5 pillars that, you experienced and then you kind of put together from those experiences. But could you tell us what the 5 pillars are? And as you're doing that, without giving too much away, right? Because we want people to read the book too. Is there a pillar that you would say is more important than the other, or that a person should focus on? Or is there a way to know where, do I make one pillar more important than the other in my life, but might that be different for you if you're reading the book?
The 5 pillars are your health, your spirituality, your career, your finances, and your relationships. And if you want to have full control over your life, you should be mindful of all of these pillars. You don't neglect one in favor of another.
Balance?
And you should be in control. You should be in control of these 5 at all times and keep them in check, because it's very easy to slide and let things out of control if you prioritize too much on one pillar or 2 pillars and then let the other 3 slide. It takes much more work to elevate them back to where you want them to be. And I'm saying this from personal experience, 100%.
It's a lot of work.
No, it's just self-discipline. And if you keep it up, it's really doable. I promise you, I'm a very lazy person, Guido. Every day of my life. No, that's not funny. That's so not funny.
You can't be lazy. If you were practicing all those hours a day.
Every day of my life is a war with my laziness, apathy, fear of yet another failure, and indifference. I've made these 4 things my friends by keeping me accountable. But I'm always mindful that I can slide into bad thought processes at any point, and I don't let myself do that. It's easy to slide back.
It is easy to slide back and sort of get into that. So if I can dig a little bit deeper on the book, can you help us understand why it's important to deal with life in its entirety? And I think you just said, Guido, there's these 5 pillars, you got to deal with them all the time. But why is it important to deal with life in its entirety when we're building self-confidence and self-esteem? Why can't I just, and I said, is Guido different? Like, am I different? What if I just want to focus on health because that's my thing? Why is it important to deal with all of them when it comes to self-confidence?
If you want to be in excellent health, you have to be able to afford to be in excellent health. So if you invest and you create assets that produce monthly cash flow that is different from a job, you can stage your work schedule in your day to accommodate your health needs. You don't sacrifice your health for the job because you don't have money. That's the simplest way to put it. It's a simple example. Plus, when you approach your life holistically and you take care of all the 5 pillars, you're living your life to the fullest, right? You're living your life to the fullest. And then is the other thing that people say, balancing life, and the very successful people will tell you, forget about balance, strive for abundance. So why wouldn't you want to be abundantly good in all these 5 aspects of your life? Why wouldn't you choose relationships that correlate with your goals and aspirations? Why would you tolerate people that drag you down? And not necessarily deliberately because they're bad people, but they're just ignorant people. And they influence you in ways that don't contribute to your development, to your growth. Those are the people you want to keep away from your life. And if you can't keep them away, you get away from their lives. So that's the relationship aspect, right?
I like your word abundance, because you as we're talking, sometimes you read my mind, or you're a step ahead of me, which I fully expect since you're the expert here in the content. But I like the word abundance because I was migrating to the word balance. But when I hear you explain this, balance seems very passive, and
Yes.
abundance seems like I would have more control over these 5 things. Balance seems like I'm settling. Abundance seems like I'm pursuing.
It's more proactive.
Is that am I going down the right path, and for everybody listening?
Yes.
Okay. Now, in part of the messaging in your book, and you've talked about one of the pillars, right? Health. You get into physical health too. Can you give us some tips what you're talking about in terms of maintaining and bolstering the excellent physical health? And if I'm allowed to, in terms of physical health, you did some martial arts as well, right?
Yeah, I did martial arts for 12 years. That was a big confidence booster. That's what taught me perseverance, actually, the work towards the black belt. I had a phenomenal teacher, a family, husband and wife, national champions in Okinawan karate. I still maintain a very friendly relationship with them, but they taught me perseverance like you won't believe. Because we were doing, yeah.
Did you do that did you do that in the United States?
Yes. Yes, while I was in the Syracuse Symphony, and then while I was going to nursing school before I came to Arizona. So I did martial arts for a while, but that's one important aspect of mental health and physical health. But then I sustained a couple of injuries from martial arts because I was pretty intense. And then I hit the gym really hard. And then my fitness routine became really steep. Of my own accord, I created my own fitness routine gradually, and I spent now between 2.5 and 3 hours a day in the fitness 4 days a week. There is no compromise with that. And then my diet, of course, the vegan, whole foods, organic diet, that goes hand in hand. That increased my endurance tenfold because I had stopped meat and chickens. That food I had stopped in 2000, but I realized I was missing out because all the toxins from the animals, farm-raised animals, they transfer to their derivative products. So once I stopped those in 2017, the end of 2017, my energy levels just spiked tenfold with work, with fitness, anything. I wasn't getting tired anymore in the middle of the day. So that's a huge aspect of health for me.
How long did it take for you to notice the difference between when you changed your diet?
Immediately.
Really?
Immediately. Yeah. And the interesting part was that my boyfriend of 13 years now, he had some chronic conditions that were about to become bad with age. And when we became vegan, those went away. 4 months. His blood work was completely clean for the first time in like 15 years. It's ridiculous. And he was so inspired. He said, I'm staying vegan. I told you. I told you so, right? Yeah, I wanted to switch to veganism when I hit 40, but he wasn't quite ready for that. So I was 41, and then we did that, and it's been great.
That's phenomenal. And you've maintained the fitness routine, not the martial arts, but the fitness routine.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. Yeah, I went through a period myself where I did some very heavy fitness routines, reaching that 3 and 4 hour per day. Which it became unsustainable for me as other things started to happen. And so I still do workouts, but nothing of that effect, but very much the same. Like we were getting into the heavy lifting of weights, and that became very hard on the joints and things like that. So
right, but the cardio, I'm adamant about lung power, Guido.
so you promote cardio?
Cardio and weightlifting. I mean, I do pull-ups. Pull-ups are my passion. I do between 80 and 100 in a session, pull-ups with my own weight, dips, 100 dips. But the cardio, I do bicycle for 8 to 12 miles at the highest resistance of the bicycle, highest incline from start to finish.
Yeah.
That I don't compromise ever. I love my cardio. Weightlifting, you have to be careful. But you build the muscle with weightlifting. Cardio is for your lungs, for endurance.
Right.
And the other very important, now you say 3 or 4 hours was unsustainable, but even if you do 2 hours a day, that's way more than most people do. Just think about it. You can't drag some people to the gym, even though it's around the corner. And if some do like an hour and a half, they think they're heroes, which is amazing compared to those who don't do anything.
Anything at all.
2 hours a day, that's fantastic. We're not professional athletes.
Right.
We're just taking care of our health, and that's great to do. And the other very important aspect is detox. Daily detox. Because the toxins we inhale, between 20,000 and 2 million a day, you have to detox daily. In my humble opinion, I can't imagine relying on luck in that aspect, because yes, we buy organic food, but how trustworthy are the organic farms? We've found a farm that's good, but still you have to also clean your body from the inside like you clean it from the outside when you go shower, for example. It's just as important. And there are many ways to detox. You have to stick to your regimen and, again, not compromise it. That's an additional boost into energy levels.
Consistent advice from end to end as you take us through these topics. There was a piece that you brought up just a few minutes ago. And if I can relate to this, I've met and talked to a lot of people, if you can imagine what I do, who have and I'm going to put quotations, who have a job. Sometimes they call it a career. But, Alexandra, they don't seem very happy with their everyday routine. They don't seem happy, perhaps, with their financial situation. But they're stuck. They're in a routine. They go, they work, they make their money, they live. And there could be a lot of different reasons. I don't want to speculate in generalities for everybody. But there's a quote in your book. You say this. You say, "You have come to the conclusion that you've been studying for, focusing on, and practicing the wrong profession for a long time. If you are in a vocation requiring continuous dedication from early childhood, your discovery is that much more painful." And as I reflect on that and I start thinking of some of those people, I'm thinking, wow, if they read that and they identify with it, it could be more painful for them, but it could also be that moment where they make a realization to do something different. Is it something that you picked up in your life experiences? Do you have advice that could get us started in terms of how to gain some of that spiritual financial satisfaction career-wise? And I'm saying that, is it in the book? Like, can we get that from the book? And if we can, we want to make sure that, if people are finding themselves in that moment, I don't want them to invest decades into their life and then come to that. It maybe they're earlier on, and maybe it is decades. I don't want to put them and say, oh, if it is decades, you can't do it. You can. We have living proof here, right?
Well, the paragraph you quoted from chapter 1, the bullet points, that's my situation exactly. This paragraph is meant to tell people that even if you decide to change your career after 20 or 30 years, it is absolutely doable. Don't be afraid. Just do it if you feel that that's the best thing for you. Now, as far as giving the advice on how to attain the spirituality in your career, that's all in chapter 9, the career chapter. So that's all about how you work to gain spiritual satisfaction from your career by being helpful to society, by being a useful member to society. But that is different from the finances, which is the chapters 10 and 11, what to do with your money once you earn it, so that you produce those assets that create cash flow out of your job, so you don't feel stuck at your job, because you have options to quit it should you choose to. That's the important part. If you're stuck at a job that you don't necessarily like, then you hate it even more, because you have to work to earn money and put bread on your table. But if you become a good investor, if you take the time to learn the financial jargon, take the time to learn it first. Don't invest your money if you have no clue what you're doing.
Right.
But learn the jargon first, understand the strategies, understand the investment vehicles, the asset classes, 4 asset classes. Understand all the vehicles within an asset class. Make a goal, create a plan. How much do you want to be net? What your net worth to be when you're 65? And that's just an example. You can decide 55. That's your business. And how much money are you feeling comfortable having a month with your assets, earning them for you before you quit your job? Right? And then you won't hate your job so much, or you can start your own business. You can become self-employed, or you can build your own corporation to provide employment for other people to feed their families on top of the product that your corporation is offering to society to make its life better. There's so many options out there that people don't explore. That's why they feel stuck.
Then you get into, you're not just helping yourself, you get into what you were talking about earlier, helping other people. And there's a whole other level of, satisfaction that you get from seeing those things happen. I like your term. You said a useful contributor. And I often say to my own kids, you don't want to just take. You want to be able to give. You want to be able to give back. You want to leave something behind. You want to contribute to something. So I like that you touched on that. You talked about choices, and sometimes we don't have a choice who we work with, but we do have a choice who we want to have as friends or surround ourselves with. Yes. It's not always easy to do. If we invest in ourselves, so we're reading chapter 9, we're reading 10, we're going to get healthy. We're going to understand our finances. We're going to put ourselves in a good mental and physical state. We're raising our self-confidence. We're organizing ourselves. We're taking your advice from the book. But then we surround ourselves with the wrong people. It's easy, and you've alluded to it a couple of times.
You won't surround yourself with your own people if you read chapter 12.
Tell me about chapter 12. What's the point?
It tells you how not to surround yourself with the wrong people, because it gives you several examples of wrong people to be around. And it's important to recognize if the people around you are not contributing to your growth, to your personal growth. And then you determine if you're okay with that, how much you're okay with that, and how much you're not okay with that. Can you reconcile with that person? Can you convince them otherwise? No? Okay, what do? Do you remove them from your life, or do you remove yourself from their life? There are choices there also.
A life decision, a life choice to make.
Correct. It's not easy. It's not easy. Nobody's saying it's easy, but you need to realize your priorities. You need to determine your priorities, and there's nothing wrong with that. You need to understand how much your sense of guilt is getting in the way of your goals and dreams. Is the sense of guilt sustainable? Is it necessary? And then besides the sense of guilt with relationships, there is also the fear of criticism from others.
Of course.
That's the other big impediment to people's successes and proactivity when they want to change something in their lives. It's detrimental if you constantly are afraid of disapproval from other people, or you're guilty that you might hurt their feelings. I'm not saying these are not valid fears, but they cannot overwhelm you and overcome you at any point consistent in your life if you want to be happy and holistic with yourself and honest with yourself.
You have thought about so many things and these 5 pillars, and I can see how the foundation of them, how you're able to come back to them, and how you're able to support, and how each of them are linked as we're having the discussion. I'm hoping the listeners are also making that connection, which should make them easier for them to digest and read the book and be able to use this advice in their own life. Now, you have a blog on your website, which is holisticselfconfidence.com. And I'm going to have that in the podcast notes so folks can be able to click on it and link to it and see and learn and get the book. But you also have a blog there. And I was just curious, does the blog complement the book, or are the entries above and beyond the scope of the book? So did the book happen and then you said, well, I'm going to complement it with the blog, or are these additional freebies that you're giving us when you blog?
Well, they're freebies, they complement the book, but also a way for people to learn about me a little bit more before they decided they can trust me and buy the book. And even if the book offers great value and is very reasonably priced, nobody is obligated to trust me that I am competent to to help them improve their lives. So if they read the blog posts and they decide for themselves that I'm trustworthy and it's worth to read more, and they will buy the book, right? The blog is a good way to get closer to people and to show people who you really are and what you're all about. Yeah, it's a freebie, but the book is better because it's the whole system.
Right.
It's much more thorough, of course. But what I've written in the blog, it's different from what I wrote in the book, so I don't repeat myself all the time. That would be boring.
You know what? I don't believe that you're boring or that you could be boring, because it seems that you have so many life experiences and insights that, I'm going to continue looking forward to reading through the blog and the book itself. What's next for Alexandra Dotcheva? Are you booking speaker? I love saying your name, by the way. I love your last name, just rolls off. I was worried that I butchered it.
Thank you.
Dotcheva. It just sounds natural. It sounds like I've been saying it for a long time. Are you booking speaker sessions based on your book? Will you write another book? What are we looking forward to?
If I have to write another book, that means I did a very poor job with this book. I need another book. I have a friend, a very nice friend, Bulgarian friend. She's in Louisiana. She said, "Are you going to take a little break now before you think you fit?" And speaking engagements, I really would love to book. There actually is an opportunity here in Phoenix right now. There is a minister who, through a neighbor of mine who I met, this neighbor of mine is a life coach in the true sense of the word. Like, what do I mean by that? He actually helps former inmates integrate back into society. And this man, he's independently rich, by the way, which is crazy, but he works with these people because he believes that he's useful to society by helping people who have been rejected integrate themselves back in society. And I have an opportunity to speak in front of former inmates.
Wow.
And I want to pursue that, because if anybody needs help and compassion and sincere approach to their problems, it is inmates, it's former drug addicts, people who want to get out of these habits. I have no problem talking to anybody who is willing to listen and curious about the book. So these speaking engagements sound like a very good idea. I didn't want to do it at first, but my publisher said you need to get in front of people and present your book. Otherwise, people won't know what it's about and they probably won't buy it. You have tons of competition with other self-confidence books and self-help books, and you know how it is with the market. But speaking engagements, I really am planning on doing those eventually.
That's great. Looking forward to it. And if if any come up and you want to share those with us, we'd be happy to put them up online for you and share the schedule with everybody. Because, geez, I would love to hear you speak, just not in a question interview format, just listen to you, because you're very easy to listen to. And so I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Alexandra, it's an incredible journey that you have documented, that you have shared with the world. It's courageous to be able to do that and put it in written form, because you are putting your life on display, really.
True.
I've asked you some questions today to extract, parts of your journey in a way that maybe the listeners could relate to it, that the readers might hopefully connect to it, and maybe we've changed or are going to help impact somebody's life positively. And I always say this, I feel selfish when I interview somebody, because I'm trying to always get stuff from them that I'm trying to extract. Is there anything that you would like to say where I'm not asking you a question, but if you have free range, is there anything that you'd like to say where I can feel less guilty myself?
There's nothing to feel guilty about. No, I'm so happy to be at your show. Thank you very much on your show. I appreciate it. But I have said this to other hosts also at the end. I like to tell people, learn all you can. Never be afraid of learning. Always be a lifelong learner. Challenge your brain for the time you live on this planet, because that's the brain fitness. But always have the intelligence to question what you learned. And don't trust conventional wisdom. Don't be afraid to break patterns away from conventional wisdom, even if that causes some raised eyebrows or some people frown at you. Don't be afraid, because if you are doing everything within ethical, legal, moral, and ethical boundaries, you're okay. You're really fine. And there's a lot you can do for yourself, legally, morally, and ethically, that you haven't explored most likely. And there's not much to be afraid of if you are always at peace with yourself, with your integrity. You have to have self-integrity. And so long as you have that, you'll be fine and you can do anything you want.
Those are the words of advice from Alexandra Dotcheva, Doctor of Musical Arts, registered nurse, martial artist, author of It Is Really Simple, A Holistic Approach to Self-Confidence, who shares her real-life experiences and says, this book is about building the person you want to be, even if it may feel like you need to start from scratch. I will have all of her contact information and links to her website and book in the podcast notes. Alexandra, thank you so much for doing this. The pleasure was all mine and the listeners. So thank you again.
Thank you, Guido. Wonderful to talk with you.
There you have Alexandra Dotcheva, everybody. And what an inspiring conversation that was for me. Hopefully you enjoyed it as well. Now, let's get to a little bit of music. We're going to hear a song from Chris Hale and the Whythouse. We're going to talk to Chris a little bit later on. But for now, let's check out this song called Slow Motion. This is the Whythouse. Undertones and modern mix, that is the Whythouse. And we're going to be talking to Chris Hale of the Whythouse in a little bit on the show here. But first, I wanted to cover off a topic on how do I make my home internet faster? The internet company said you have the best modem that you can have on your existing plan. But there are still times when your phone or computer seems to be very slow when you're online. We've all had those moments when the little beach ball spins, The progress bar inches forward bit by bit, and the page loads slowly, or not at all. A call to technical support always starts with the same questions. Did you restart the modem? Yes. Did you restart your device? Yes. Did you recently add any new devices? No. Why do I get a weak signal? Most of the time, there really isn't anything wrong with the modem or your devices. Wi-Fi devices can be susceptible to many different types of interference from other household devices such as baby monitors, garage door openers, cordless phones, microwave transmitters, radios, cameras, and more. Location can also contribute to a weak signal. Sometimes how thick a wall is or what is inside of it can reduce the signal strength of your modem. If your modem is at the front of your home, the signal may be weaker towards the back of your home and vice versa. While moving it towards the center of your home can help, you still have the same signal trying to service your entire house, trying to get around all your other household devices. So what do? Build your own mesh network. An easy solution is to extend your signal using a mesh network. You do this by introducing nodes, locations, within your home that can distribute the signal. The term mesh simply means that the signals all work together to create one network. The first mesh device connects to your modem, wired or wirelessly, depending on how your home is configured. And from there, additional mesh devices connect to it and other devices, increasing the signal across your home. A typical starter mesh network uses 3 devices. Depending on the type of configuration you have, wired and or wireless can help determine how many additional devices you can add to maintain good connectivity. How do they connect? Your first device needs to establish a connection to your modem or router, either wirelessly or wired. While wired always provides a better connection, it isn't practical in most homes. Don't fret about that, as a wireless connection provides a good option. Once you've achieved the connection to the modem, each additional device will connect through the first mesh device and or each other, depending again on the configuration options. Together, they form the mesh network. Which mesh system should I get? A good entry-level pack that I recommend is the TP-Link Whole Home Mesh Wi-Fi System. It's the Deco M4, which sells with 3 devices and offers coverage for up to 5,500 square feet. The average home size is about 2,500 square feet. So this package gives you more than enough coverage with fair speeds of up to 1,200 megabits per second. To give you a sense of speed, when you watch Netflix, you typically need 25 megabits per second for Ultra HD or 4K quality. So that leaves you a lot of bandwidth for several devices. Plus, you could purchase the set on Amazon between $140 and $170, which offers a great return on the investment. The installation time is about 20 to 30 minutes, depending on how comfortable you are with technology, but the instructions are easy to follow and the app provides prompts along the way. This set also allows you to turn off the LED lights, so if you put them in your bedroom, the lights aren't a nighttime distraction. I have used this set for over a year now, and whether I'm in the front yard washing the car, the backyard sitting on the deck, the basement, or upstairs, the connection has never been better. This is an opinion article by me, Guido Perino, of the Go On with Guido podcast. Now, I hope that you check that out. I'll have the link to the article and to the product in the podcast notes. It is really a cool system. I've been using it. It works. I know others that have it, and it works as well. And you'll learn a little bit more about the mesh network system.
I would like to welcome to the show our musical feature this month, Chris Hale of the multi-genre urban band from Toronto, Ontario, Canada, the Whythouse. Hey, thanks for showing up, Chris. How's it going?
It's going really good, Guido. Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
The pleasure is all mine, man. It's good music, and I want everybody to hear it, and I want everybody to hear you and what you have to say about it. So let's get going. I need to get some foundation out of the way, though.
Sure, absolutely.
The Whythouse. Shakespeare. Hey, what's in a name, right? But what is in the name? What's the Whythouse? What is this? What's it all about?
Well, it's funny you asked that because not too many people do ask about it. They ask more about why'd you spell it that way.
Well, that's it. You blew the rest of the interview because that was it.
Well, the reality, like how it all started was, back in the early 2000s, we're saying 2000. Myself and another guy named Kevin Perkins, we became the Whythouse. The Whythouse was actually, the name was kind of given to us in a way. We lived in a white house, and every weekend we'd hold these huge parties. And we come from the battle rap culture of Toronto. So it was kind of a weird thing. And, we would have these parties and, we would get MCs that come in and we would battle and we'd knock them down. And then the next weekend they'd bring them in. Obviously these are, quite, a little after college days.
Yeah. Are we talking like 8 Mile battle here? Like, is that?
Yeah. We're talking
really?
like 8 Mile battle. So we used to hold these parties and we got coined those guys in the White House. So it's funny. So that's where the name came from, Guido. It's that easy. It's that simple.
I won't look for it. I just thought, like, if you've ever played the Simpsons game, they have the purple house and the white house, and I was like,
sure.
Is this a play off the Simpsons or something? Or Seinfeld? There's some, I don't know.
Yeah, no. I mean, it was a really cool, cool name. It's because nobody really knew our names. It's just like those guys in that White House, that party. They have a party every weekend. And we did so much cool stuff back then. It was just great.
It sounds like I would have hung out with you if I had the chance.
It's a good time.
Well, so with the whole, who's in the band, like you said, Kevin, you're playing. Usually you see a band play and halfway through the set, they kind of go, all right, on drums is so-and-so.
Yeah.
Is you and Kevin? Was there anybody else?
Well, that's where I kind of got to go back into the history of the name. Basically, when the White House, Kevin and I decided, maybe we can get some shows. We're pretty good at this, things like that. We had our own studio, things like that as well. But nobody wanted any hip hop artists doing shows in their bars because they were afraid of thuggery and, just the whole vibe of it didn't appeal to Canadian clubs. And we were hard and, we swore a lot and, it was just that kind of thing. So we rebranded and we became an urban pop group. We brought in a vocalist, a male vocalist named Steve McElray. And we brought in a female vocalist named Shelley Cowan. These two sang basically the hooks on the tracks. And then Kevin and I would rap and back up sing and things like that. And as time went on and we started getting a lot more shows, the demand to actually have a band was prevalent. So we went out and we auditioned a whole bunch of artists and we brought in a band, a 5-piece band. So when we were doing shows back in those days, like we toured with Sean Desmond, we toured with De La Soul and Maestro Fresh West and Melanie Durant and a whole bunch of artists. We actually had a full band, and you never saw a rap group with a band, right? And a DJ, right? At the time. I mean, there's a lot of it now, but back then it was new. So we started getting a lot more shows. And then, we got signed and it was kind of cool that way. We put out our new record. Our first record was Brick by Brick back in 2003, I think. That was a long time ago.
Not that long.
Yeah, well, it feels like a lifetime ago, to be honest. But the band now, though, isn't really so much a band. It's a couple artists. We are a collective now. So as far as the music production and stuff, I do the production on this on the new record and the new releases that have been coming out. And I have a guitarist named Kenny Mays who plays a lot of the licks that you're hearing in the music. And we rebranded our band again, and we basically became the Urban Pop Collective. Now, behind that, we brought in Joby One, who's a hip hop artist. We brought in a reggae artist named Journey. Myself, obviously, I'm the singer in the group. Primarily, when you hear somebody singing on our tracks, it's me. And Kenny Mays is the amazing blues player, guitar player that you're hearing on a lot of that music.
So you started to touch on it a little bit in terms of the mix that you have.
Yeah.
What does it mean? Like, do you take anything away from it when you think we're a country urban pop band in Toronto? Like when you think Toronto, and you're talking to me like I grew up my teenage years in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, which is way north of here, right?
Right.
I never would have thought country urban pop Toronto when I came down.
Okay.
What does that mean to you now? Like,
well, from the beginning when we started, we blended pop, rap, and reggae primarily into our music. So we were crossing over into those three genres back then. And the break that we took, like Whythouse just got rebranded and brought back. I brought it back in this last summer during the second wave of COVID. We were on a huge hiatus. We stopped doing music out, to release, so to say. I did a lot of production over the years, but and with my age and the maturity in the music that I'm currently doing, I mean, no one wants to go see Dad up on stage, right? Not these young ones, anyways, right? No. And I mean, I'm no longer established like we were back then to do that kind of music now, because we didn't continue doing it. So I am born and raised in Toronto, from Toronto, and I moved to Waterloo. So this is where I currently am. So the country vibe, if you listen to our stuff, it's not quite country. It has country elements, right? But it also has old classic rock elements. It's got reggae elements. It's got hip hop elements. It's got all of those elements banged in together. And I call it country pop. But, I've heard people call it country blues. I've heard people say that's country rock or that's pop and I'm like, that's great. That's exactly what I want you to call it. Right? It's whatever you think it is.
The appeal is wide, is what I think you're saying, right?
It's universal. We try and create. I'm trying to create universal music, right?
Well, so here's the thing. Like I introduced you, I think in my intro, I said multi-genre urban group. And when I first heard it, like I'm kind of going, what is this? Like this is really cool. Like my first, your first impressions, I was like, I really like the beat, I really like the rhythm, I really like the sound. But I'm like, what is this? Right? And there's a couple of it's okay if you say, Guido, you're wrong, or that doesn't it doesn't jive. Like I was like, every band has its sound, and when you hear something, you always go, oh, it sounds like so and so. There were two things that first came to mind. So you tell me if I'm crazy. The first thing that came to mind was Sugar Ray. And then the second thing that I was like, a little bit of Chili Peppers. And I was like, I'm going to ask, but maybe he's going to say, no, man, you're way off on this.
Well, there's no inspiration from that. But that's what's cool about it. It's like, I get called, like our song, She Said Hi, for instance. So many people are like, that sounds like Sublime. Right?
Right. Okay. Now that you said that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I get an older crowd that listens to it and they're like, that's Stevie Miller all day long. Right. And I'm just like, okay.
So you got something unique. You have something unique.
Yeah. And maybe it's something new. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's something old. Maybe it is. It's whatever the listener wants it to be. And that's where this universal thing comes in. Right. Because you are hearing hip hop beats in a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
You are hearing hip hop or pop bass lines in a lot of that stuff. And then all of a sudden you're getting a country guitar with a slide or something like that. So yeah, it's cool.
So how did you find the sound? Like, was it something intentional, or did you, like I'm thinking, were they sitting around, having a drink and plucking strings and hey, and it came, or was it a plan?
Okay. It wasn't a plan. It wasn't a plan at first. Because our first track that we dropped was Slow Motion, and Slow Motion, we tried to keep that a little modern. We used a lot of auto-tune like the kids like today. We tried to kind of manipulate. And believe it or not, that song was supposed to be a reggae track, the hook for it. And then we didn't like it. And we went back to it the next day, and then we came up with this that we have. And I'm just like, this has got a country vibe. And my partner was like, yeah, it does. But it's still pop, and it's still got these elements. And I'm like, yeah, it does. And so we threw it out there. And with the success of it, because it just like, boom, there was a couple thousand, 100,000 streams on the track in a couple months. And I was like, what's going on? Right. So at that point, it was like, okay, we've got something. Let's work on it. And so.
And that's oddly enough, right? I said to you when we were sort of exchanging the messages, I said, yeah, I wouldn't mind playing that on the podcast. That's the one, right? So, I didn't know anything of what you just told me. It was just, as I was going through the list of your songs, I was like, oh man, I really like that song, right? And I want people to hear this song. So I thought that was kind of neat that you're just mentioning that. You now that you have the sound, is it hard to keep it? Like when you're making another song, are you finding yourself, oh no, we got to sound that way. We have to sound that. Like, are you driving toward that, or is it just coming?
You know what? Right now, it's just coming. Like, we have a song called Lightning in a Bottle, and that's exactly what all these songs are. They just happened. It was just like boom, boom, boom. And it's just like, and they musically came to us, vocally came to us, lyrically, everything. It's just, for some reason, the big man upstairs is just like tuned right into my brain. And
you guys are finding everybody's finding the pocket on it, right? Like, it's
it's a vibe that we really enjoy. All of our stuff, and I know you've been listening to it, is very feel good type stuff.
It is. Yeah, it really is.
With the world today, this is what we need, right? Like, it's been the last couple of years with the pandemic and everything else that's been going on in the world, this is what we all need. So
you said you sort of kicked things off last year during the second wave or one of the waves of the pandemic, right? 2021 sort of thing, or 2020?
2021.
2021.
Yeah.
Was it brought on by, hey, I'm in a pandemic? Like, is that what kicked it off and you needed to do something different, or?
Well, part of it was I could no longer do Plexomatic Beats, which is my production side it's my side business where I work on music for other artists, obviously, and they pay. I give them what they need. So I could no longer do that. And I'd actually put in my music on the shelf for that. And because A, I needed the money, and B, well, I love making music. So when the second wave came around, I was really like, man, I need to do something.
Yeah.
And then stuff started coming to me, and I was just like, I need to get this down and see what's up. We weren't even going to release it, to be honest. It was just more for us. And then, we were just like, you know what, let's drop it under Whythouse. Whythouse did well. We still got music up, our music got put up on Spotify, which nobody ever listened to. The record was up there, probably had 11 streams over the last 20 years, And we were just like, you know what, let's put it out. And it just, something happened. Spotify put us on one of their secondary playlists, and we got a crap load of streams. And then people were coming out of the woodwork at us. And the pandemic made a lot of us think about our lives, right?
Yeah. Well,
and that only live once thing. And I haven't done enough in my life. I need to get, I've missed out on so much. It kind of makes you think that, when you've got that much time to be alone or with your family or whatever, but you start to think about your own mortality and I didn't get to do this, or, I wish I could have did this. Right. Even though I wasn't saying the world was ending, right? But it was just like, it started to make me reevaluate a lot of things in my life. And one of them was music, because it's my first love. So,
there might have been a lot of people going through that same thing. And maybe the fact that you did that, it's reflected in your music, it's reflected in your lyrics. And that's what people are connecting with when they hear what you're putting out there. Right. I mean, that's what I think comes to mind. When I hear you talk about that, you said a word, you said Plex.
Yeah. Yeah. Plex is my stage name.
I was going to say there's more to this, right? Like Plex. So this takes us back, no?
Yeah, it takes us back. I got given the name. I won it as actually some famous rapper. I can't really speak for him, but let's just say he's famous.
Yeah.
Well, he was. I took him out in a battle rap. And one of the lines was, I said something about suplexing him, so his mom could feel it. And it was one of the lines, and he called me Plex. And every time we ended up at one of these battles, he was there, and he'd call me Plex. And the next thing you know, it just kind of stuck. Now my mom calls me it, so that'll tell you something.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's funny. Well, it's funny hearing my mom say it.
So, plus suplex, you're into wrestling?
No, but like right now I'm pretty small, like physically, but I wasn't. We'll just say.
Oh, okay, all right. So you were.
Yeah, I could have suplexed
him. Listen, another thing you dropped earlier was the song "She Said Hi."
Yeah.
That song on Spotify, like, congratulations, you're into the hundreds of thousands of streams on that.
Yeah.
And it's a good song. It's
it's funny you say that. I just checked today, and we're approaching the 2 million stream mark on this Country Files album, which has only been we dropped Slow Motion in July of 21.
Wow.
And all the songs that I've been putting out combined since June of 2021, we're almost at 2 million streams, and that's just on Spotify. So
tell me a little bit about the Country Files. What's that all about?
Yeah, so the Whythouse, with the rebranding now, and my age and things like that, we sat down and we discussed what we were going to do as far as going forward. So the Whythouse is going to have many rooms in the Whythouse, and in each room is going to be a genre or a genre smash, so to speak, as what I call them. People call it blending, crossover, whatever you may, it's up to you. But in each room, there's going to be a Pop Files LP that's coming out. There's going to be a reggae LP that's coming out. We're going to get into a hip hop rap LP with, the old school hip singing verses, as well as hooks and things like that. And we're just going to drop as many albums right now as we can with the collective. So I've got artists from the US that are going to be involved in it, hip hop and vocalists. I just did a song with Jennifer Alvarado, who was the Female Independent Country Artist of the Year last year, which that song is, in 2 weeks, we're over 100,000 streams. It is doing fantastic. We're charting in LA with 2 of our tracks. So as far as what's ahead of the game in the Country Files is one of the rooms, and it's all got a very similar feel to it. But if you played our record from front to back, it wouldn't sound like you listened to a record from the same artist. Well, you could tell it's the same artist, but they're so different, but yet so the same in the vein, that it's one of those records that you can literally listen from front to back, right? So
we're going to have some, I get it. We're going to have some transition. We're going to have some transition through, as we're walking through the house. So not every room is going to be vanilla, I think, is what I'm hearing, right?
It's exactly that.
it sounds exciting. Like I want to. Do you still have the Whythouse?
I do.
No way.
I do.
Are we gonna have like is there gonna be like do we still have CD kickoff parties? Is there gonna be a CD kickoff
or like
party?
a record release?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, as well as you know as well as I do, the clubs right now are not really what it's like. So I'm gonna have to say no on the country files, right? And like I had somebody ask me, well, are you going to be doing some shows and things like that? Yeah. And I'm sure you're going to be asking me that, so I'll wait. But
no, go for it. Tell me now.
No,
because I do. I was going to say,
I'm not going to do any on. Well, I am.
Yeah.
But the money needs to be right, or I'm not doing it. You know, I learned my lessons over the years, and a lot of the bands and independent bands that are out there. And I don't mean to sound snide or anything like that, but my time is worth money.
Yeah.
And I'm not paying a bar to play at their bar. It's just not happening. I don't care. You know what? If I can do well online and get on some radio and not have to do a show, great. If they want me to do a show, well, they got to pay me. I did too many free ones before, and I learned the lessons a long time ago.
Yeah, the working. I think you might be past working for your dinner, Chris. So
absolutely. No, and the thing about that is these youngsters think the shows are going to get you notoriety, but you're in a group of 40 people.
Yeah.
Or whoever's there, right? If the show was big, if it's a city event or something like that, absolutely, I'll do it. Right?
Sounds like you're pulling on some experience. As you're building the new house here. So
absolutely. I've been there, done it. And the reality is I paid more money out of pocket to play those bars than the bars paid us to play. Right.
I've heard it over and over. Yeah. I you know what? And here's the interesting thing with the music industry is that I think it happens in these layers, in these pockets, because that happens at the sort of the bar level, at the club level. And as you go producer level, like you're always putting out. And I think not everybody realizes that. Like folks tune in, they listen to the music. Hey, it's a great song. You must be rolling in it. But you're like, oh man, there's tons of money behind one song. There's tons because everybody that plays on this song, you got to pay it out, right? You got to pay them to be on the track. You got to pay the producers, right? So, what was it called? Napster, back in the days of Napster, right? Like everybody's stealing music, right? But
absolutely. Well, that's the reason why Prince changed his name to a sign, right? So that they couldn't reproduce the sign on his keyboard, right?
Couldn't search it. So we're gonna hear a couple of your songs. I'm gonna play them on the podcast, and we started streaming stuff on thepathradio.com, right? Today, awesome. One of your songs. It's your new one. Let It Roll. You just released it on April 10th, and a little foreshadowing for the audience here when I say it's a tune with a sweet, loving melody. I like that. So they'll have to tune in to understand what I mean there. It sounds like you had fun with that song too. It does come across as very cross-generational. What can you tell us about it? What was the inspiration on Let It Roll?
The meat and potatoes.
Yeah. As
I call it.
Yeah. No salad, just meat and potatoes.
That's it. So the funny thing is I'm going to be quite honest about that track. That track is about the date night that my wife and I had after they opened up all the restrictions. Obviously with kids in the house, it's hard to get away and be with each other and the way you want to be with each other and be intimate in any way, that's not over the top, and things like that. And it'd been a rough 2 years. I can't lie. Not in my relationship, but more so the freedom in my relationship, we'll just say.
Yeah.
So kids are out of the house. We had just had beautiful, awesome dinner. We come home. My wife lights some candles. She's got Marvin Gaye playing. Let's get it on. And we were dancing in the living room. We were having fun. We were drinking wine, and that's what the song was about.
Right on.
You know, the sweet love and melody in the background. And
so that is the Sweet Love and Melody.
that's the sweet love and melody. Is Marvin Gaye.
Right on.
Yeah. Yeah. And there was some other melodies going on after that, but we won't talk about that.
No, gotta keep it clean. Educational show, right? Gotta keep it clean.
Absolutely.
Well,
So that was the inspiration. And I mean, I'm a huge Motown fan, and this is where you're hearing the multi-generational vibe from the track. It's got a very old, soulful feel to it, yet it's still pop. And it's still got a bit of country swag in there too, which is even funnier. You know, it's hard to believe that you could mix all that together, but we did it, and it's fantastic. We love it.
It is, and you are doing it. And I was going to say, I think you might have answered it. I said, well, you know, you're drawing on your personal experience. It sounds like Let It Roll. That's a life experience that you're sharing with us. I can imagine that, you know, some of your other tunes are as well.
Everyone.
So you kind of said, hey, you know what? We're going to build the house. We've got the rooms going on. We're not looking at doing any shows right now.
Right.
What else? Is there anything else in the future for Whythouse, for the Whythouse, or?
Well, I mean, I'm hoping that, you know, the right people hear it and think that there's something behind it. I mean, I don't think there's anybody out there that sounds like us right now. I mean, there's some similarities to some things, but I don't think anybody sounds like us. And I don't want to say it on a bad note, but if you listen to our tracks, they're original. They're not, there's no cookie cutter garbage that you're hearing in there. And I think that's what music needs right now. If you listen to, and I don't want to knock anybody, but if you listen to the different genres that are out there, they all sound the same. Like, you can go song for song for song, and it's just like, okay, that's the same format. They wrote it the same way. They're using the same reverbs. They're using all the same auto tunes. It's monotonous to hear it like that. That's why I go back to classic rock. It's like, man, I just need something. You know, I just need something. I just need to hear something that sounds real, you know? And that's what's up. I mean, I just want to kind of bring back a real feel to our music and let people be exposed to, hey, that can actually still pull it off, right? So
that's why we connected, I think, because, you know, when I miss seeing, you know, some live shows, because I could see the shows and I'd say, I'd like to talk to that person, or I want to hear that music. And so, you know, during the COVID time, I'm left to scour the internet and see what I find. And, you know, like, I get a lot of different things sent to me from different producers and different, you know, promoters and things like that. And I came across your stuff on one of the, you know, one of the music houses or whatever, where artists put all their stuff. And I thought, wow, because it sounded so different, I was like, I haven't had anything like this on the show, or I haven't heard anything like this, right? And that's what sort of piqued my curiosity. I am thinking others would too, because it does have that unique sound to it. And just talking to you, you're pretty down to earth, and you're unique. And I got a feeling so is everybody else that you're sort of collaborating with.
Absolutely.
It sounds like when you guys get together, you're having fun. It's a party, and you're producing good stuff because of it.
Absolutely.
I have to thank you so much for doing this, but is there anything else you want to say before we sort of end things off? And
well, I'd like to tell the people actually how to spell the Whythouse, because we get a lot of people.
I didn't ask you about it.
No, you didn't have to. You didn't have to. The Whythouse is WHYTHOUSE. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Amazon, all the platforms. We're at the Whythouse on Twitter, at the Whythouse on Facebook. You cannot miss us. We are all over the place. If you want to get a hold of me, or if anybody wants to get a hold of me, it's thewhythouse@gmail.com. And if you're trying to sell me something, don't bother.
You know what? I think if I need a co-host, would you be willing to co-host with me? Because
totally,
that was awesome.
Totally.
So there you have it, folks. I'd like to thank Canadian artist Chris Hale of The Whythouse with a Y for chatting with us today about his music, the band, their new release, all the history on The Whythouse, and the songs that you're going to hear here on the podcast. I'm going to have all the contact information that Chris just gave us in his best radio voice, better than me, best radio voice on the podcast notes. And hopefully we'll catch up with Chris again. Thanks, Chris.
It's my pleasure, Guido. Thank you.
That was a really fun chat I had with Chris Hale of the band The Whythouse. And folks, we talked a few minutes after the interview ended, and I can't tell you how much of what you see is what you get in Chris. He's genuine and he's real, folks, and so is the music. And so with that, let's listen to one of the songs called Gotta Be Me, There'd Be No Other Way. Here is Chris Hale, The Whythouse, with their song, Gotta Be Me. That is Chris Hale, and that is The Whythouse with Gotta Be Me. Stick around for later in the show. We're going to have their new song, Let It Roll. All right, we've come to the part of the podcast where I usually share with you some sort of story that I've experienced or written about. And so we're going to do that. But before we get there, I'm going to open it up. And if anybody out there listening has their own story that they want to share and they'd like to send that along, I'll have a read through it and maybe put it on the show. So if you're interested, send me an email to guido@guidoperino.com. I'll have the address in the podcast notes. Now, let's get to my story. Are you a duck or a goose? When I was a small child, my father would take me to Bellevue Park, at the time a very small, free-of-charge zoo in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. It had bison, deer, bears, otters, peacocks, and a variety of other birds. The park has been void of caged animals for decades now. The only animals there today are the ones that want to be there. Ducks, geese, and a few squirrels own the free-range land now as they did when I was a child. Another constant is the sight of a small child with a parent walking around, throwing bite-sized breadcrumbs at the ducks. It was one of my favorite things to do. I remember sitting at the kitchen table, breaking the bread up into little pieces and putting them back into the Bluebird Bakery plastic bag. Bluebird Bakery was a beloved local bakery that no longer exists, but provided for the community in many positive ways. The excitement of preparing those bread bites and then feeding the ducks was one of the park visit highlights. The other was watching the ducks congregate together and fight for one of those pieces. They all splashed in the water, causing ripples that only drew more birds towards them, adding to the already intense battle. It was a routine event until one day one of the birds did something different. One of the geese stood outside the group of ducks on the edge of the pond shore and watched me throw the bread. Its head turned from side to side, like it was watching a tennis match between me and the ducks as I threw bread and they fought for it. Then it slowly walked over the ridge of the pond towards me, while it extended its neck forward and then withdrew it. Another step, and then a pause as it looked at me. Another step again, followed by a hiss. I wondered what it was doing until it was about 2 feet away from me. Again, it looked at me, and now I was looking at it with greater concern. My father said, "Throw it some bread," and I did, but it didn't acknowledge it. Instead, it inched closer yet again. Then it threw open its wings, hissed, and began an aggressive plunge towards me. That's when I took flight. So, with the bag of bread in my hand, I ran. The goose decided it would follow. It was the trial of a new Olympic event, boy versus bird. I ran because I was scared. It ran because it was presumably hungry and wanted more than a small crumb. I never knew a goose could run so fast. As this all ensued, my father yelled, "Give it the bread!" in a voice that bounced off the surrounding trees and then faded like an echo atop a mountain. If I let the bread go, I'd have nothing to feed the ducks with, but if I kept it, I was certain this goose wouldn't stop at the bread if it caught me. It was gaining ground on me. I decided to settle for the silver medal as I tossed the bag of bread sideways and watched the goose veer towards it, abandoning its pursuit of me. As I slid to a stop, I could feel my heartbeat outside of my body, asking myself what had just happened. Bent over slightly, with my hands on my knees, I watched that goose gobble up the bread inside the bag. Although some seagulls were circling around it like vultures, not a single bird approached that goose. There was a perimeter around it, like a force field, as it stood confidently looking around with an empty, tattered plastic bag at its feet. Off in the distance, my dad was laughing and shaking his head. As a child, that event was nothing more to me than outrunning a bird who just happened to eat all the bread and prevented me from the joy of feeding the ducks while being out with my dad. An event that I told my friends and family about while my dad laughed about the day a goose chased his son. Through the years, and as I think back, it has evolved into a life lesson for me and perhaps for anyone who wishes to apply it to their own personal situation. How often do we fight for crumbs in our life? As a child, a student, a professional, a friend, a spouse, a leader, a follower, or whatever status you identify with, there has likely been a moment where you found yourself among the ducks. You may have found yourself battling others, reaching for whatever came your way because in that moment, it was the most important thing in your life that could help sustain you, get you to the next level, or perhaps simply satisfy you. That goose must have decided that it was done fighting for crumbs. It was done with the slow process of getting only the opportunity to consume a piece of bread while battling other geese and ducks. So, on that day, it did something different than any one of the other birds. First, it observed the process. Then, it made a plan and a commitment to it. Finally, it relentlessly pursued its goal, overcoming all obstacles. Equally as important as recognizing when we are fighting for crumbs, is also recognizing when we are being fed crumbs. There's a lot of crumbs in our world today across politics, employment, healthcare, education, social circles, and even basic subsistence. The decision to be a duck fighting for crumbs or a goose who takes control of their destiny is ultimately ours to first recognize and then act on. Are you a duck or a goose? This is an opinion article by me, Guido Perino of the Go On With Guido podcast, and you could read the article on guidoperino.com in the blog section. As we continue the show, our next segment is on car maintenance, what you should be doing for this spring and summer. And if you listen to this segment, there's a special code in there that'll save you some money when you're ready to do that maintenance.
I would like to welcome to the show owner and operator of Spin Cam Tirecraft in Richmond Hill, Ontario, Cam Campley, who is here to talk to us today about spring and general car maintenance. Cam, welcome to the show. Thanks for doing this. How are you? ¿Cómo está?
I'm great, Guido. How are you? And thanks for having me, Guido. It's an honor to be on your show, man.
Thank you. And for those the non-Italian community, ¿Cómo está is just how you doing, right?
How are you doing?
How are you doing, Cam? Hey, so I was gonna say spring is in the air, but we're recording this on a day where winter was in the air.
It's winter.
In mid-April, mid to end of April here, and we're getting snowfalls, but it is in the air. Spring is in the air. Your shop has been hopping in terms of folks coming in. What are some of the types of things that customers should be doing to their cars this time of year?
Well, I mean, at this time of year, Guido, everybody's changing over their tires anyway. So I would say, first off, go to a shop that's trustworthy. And they're going to give you ask the guy to give the car a once over, because they're going to take the wheels off anyway. And that's the perfect time to check your brakes, your front end, your shocks, all your safety issues. That's what you want them to check. And because we've just come, like you said, we've just come out of the winter, and the sand and the salt that gets in between your brake calipers, and by calipers, I mean calipers is what squeezes the pads shut to your brakes. You want to get, in most cases, those, I'm not going to say 50%, but a good 30% of cars will need a good brake service, and it's worth the money.
Yeah, you make a good point, right? The tires are off, and so you guys can kind of have that look around, right? Does it usually cost extra to do the look around, or is it at a glance sort of thing, or are there pieces depending on how deep you go, maybe? Or
no, I mean, if you go to a dealership, yeah, they'll charge you extra for everything. But when you normally go to shops like mine, like your independent shops, your family-run businesses, we're taking the tires off anyway. So a good technician will think about your safety first and just look at like I said, the safety issues. We're not going to go take everything apart, but if we feel we see something that's a little bit, iffy, then we'll come and tell you, say, listen, we got to take your brakes apart. So there's going to be a charge for that.
Right.
But otherwise, no, everything is more visual and they can tell.
And I think something that you're saying that's really important there is the communication factor, right? So you inspect, you got the tires off, you're looking around, just being able to talk to the customer and say, here's what we see, and then what do you want me to do with it, right? Because you've done that with me, Guido.
Right.
This is what, do you want me to look at this further? Here's what it would cost. You've always given me that opportunity, right? And I think that's what you're saying is important communication-wise.
100%. Yeah. And we and we like to show the customer too. We like to take them out in the shop. A lot of our customers say, "No, Cam, don't worry about it. Just whatever it needs, do what you got to do." But we like to take customers out to show them, it's for our peace of mind too.
Yeah, and you make a good point around safety, right? Like getting this stuff done for safety. Now, just on that point, I have a friend who always says to me, "Why don't you service your own brakes?" It does, and I'm thinking, service my own brakes. It just doesn't seem like something I should tackle. But I know some people who like to do it at home. Tell us, what are some of the benefits of doing something as important as brakes at a shop where, people studied this and they went to school for this and they have experience versus me where I got to go and get lifts and pads. And I don't even know what some of the parts are called. right?
You know what? I'm glad you brought this up because that's a touchy subject for me. Because when it comes to stuff like brakes, I mean, first off, unless you're a licensed technician, I would never recommend you do your own brakes. When you're attempting something like brakes, that's probably one of the most important mechanical parts, if not the most important mechanical part of the car or vehicle. And you're putting not only your life in danger, you're putting somebody else's life in danger. That's got nothing to do with your problems. And for what? To save a couple of $100? You know, when you come to our shop, first of all, you're going to get a good warranty. You're going to get, like, I mean, we offer, not everybody does, but you know, I think most shops offer decent warranties. We offer lifetime warranty on your brakes. We offer like a two-year warranty on your rotors or your disc. And, you know, and then we offer a licensed technician, like you said, who went to school to do this. And so that's peace of mind. And you can't buy peace of mind. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
I would never do my brakes.
I noticed too, like at your shop, you've always got that. I see the mechanics are working, and then I always see you've got like oversight, right? So there's a second or a third guy. You even go out there, you do some sort of inspection. You're always communicating with the mechanics as well. So it's that second and third look that's what I feel comfortable with, anyways.
You know, and you know what? And again, you know, none of us are perfect. But we do try our best in every which way. Yeah. To make sure that things are running smoothly and are done properly, especially that properly.
So I won't be doing my brakes at home, and hopefully some folks understand the benefit of having a licensed mechanic do that. And I think what part of it is just that safety for yourself and for others on the road, as you said. Now, another big part of that is the tires, and your shop is called Spin Cam Tirecraft. Tires are an interesting thing. They have all sorts of ratings and speeds and this and that. But I think the big thing is people always go, well, do I need a winter tire? Do I need an all-season tire? Now there's this new one called the cross-climate tires. Depending here in Southern Ontario, maybe it's different than Northern Ontario. What tires? Like, what do you recommend? What's the difference between all these tires? How do I know what I need?
Okay, there's a lot of talking points in that small question that you just asked. And I'm assuming that by cross climate, you mean the all-weather tires that are out now. Cross climate is the brand from Michelin.
Oh, sorry.
Actually, I believe you bought the cross climates.
But it's important that you said that, because to me, I'm thinking cross climate wasn't I just thought it was the type of tire.
Yeah, no,
it's a brand. It's a brand.
Michelin cross climate, yeah.
Right.
And yeah, there's 3 different tires, and I guess the tires are they're rated by temperature. That's how I would classify tires. So you have your winter tire, which is rated up to minus 30 Celsius, and you can ride your winter tires throughout the whole year. The problem with the winter tire riding it throughout the whole year is it wears a lot faster in warm weather. So once you hit the spring, summer, and beginning of fall, where we're still warm, you're going to go through those tires a lot quicker. Then you have your all-season tire, which all-season if you live in Florida, but if you live in Canada, all-season it's only up to +7. So you're good for, beginning of till the fall. After the fall, you're into the zeros, and so the all-season really is probably one of. I mean, we've all used it in this country, but it's not a good tire for our climate. And then now you have the all-weather, which is, I guess, what the all-season was intended to be. And the all-weather is come a long way in the last 4 or 5 years. It's up to minus 15. It doesn't wear as much as a winter tire in the warmer weather. So that is a really, really, really good option for people who don't want to spend money on rims because you need another set of rims. So there's choices, but some people like to have a pure winter, and some people like to have the all season for their summertime. And having a pure winter, if you live in a place where it's like really cold a lot, like minus 15 and up, then yes, then I would suggest. So I guess it all depends where you live and your pocketbook too.
And in the winter, Cam, these tires, does one tire help you stop better than the other?
Oh, of course. The winter tire versus the all-season tire and this is, you can go on the website. Ministry of Transportation has it right on their website. At 60 kilometers an hour, at 50 kilometers an hour, both braking at the same point. The winter tires stop 60 meters closer. That's a lot. That's huge. And if you're going downhill, it's even more.
You're right. So I put those. Let me get this right. All weather. I put the all weather ones on, and we rode those this winter, and they were fantastic. Like, they're smooth. They're smooth when they're not on snow. They were smooth when they were on snow. They were quiet. Just a really impressive tire. Yeah. Now, you mentioned a couple of things, Cam. You talked about putting the rims, taking tires off, putting tires on. Now, just as a convenience, you also when you take the tires off, you have a storage service too, right?
We do, yes.
Right. So I don't have to haul. So people don't have to haul the tires off like in their cars, and like I've done that, and it's dirty, it's heavy. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, even if you have a big garage, you have a big house, and it's not the space that people don't like anymore. It's just hauling them around, dirtying your cars. Because once you take the tires off, the tires that you rode in with, if you came in and wet weather, you're putting them in your car now. Even though they're bad, they're still going to leak.
And you bag them and stuff like that. But yeah, I get that. So that you do have the convenience of storage right on site at your shop. The last time I was there, you put this little card in my console inside the car, and it said to come back to get my tires torqued after, I think, 30 kilometers. Why is that, and what happens if I don't?
I'm glad you brought this to the attention of your listeners, because that's a serious safety issue. Like, many people believe that tires fall off because technicians don't tighten the tires. It does happen from time to time where the technician doesn't do that, but the majority of times it's not because of that. They're still trying to figure it out. The only thing they figured out is that alloy wheels, which is aluminum wheels, fall off a lot more than steel wheels. And actually, steel wheels hardly ever. I guess because what they're saying is that the alloy wheel, because it's a soft metal, it has more play. So when you're tightening the tires, you would have to go a good 20, 30, 40, 50 kilometers and give movement to the wheel, so that if they do start backing off, you come back at the shop, we retorque them, and they should be good for the rest of the year like that. But I'm glad you brought that up, because that is a serious safety issue. And if you're going to a shop and they're not at least telling you to come back and retorque your tires, they're not thinking about your safety. And like you said, we put a torque pad, we call them, on every car, and people come back. And at the end of the day, they come back, they don't even wait. I mean, probably the longest customer waited 5 minutes. They just have to come in, say, I'm here. We send somebody outside, go torque them.
Oh yeah, we were just there at your shop last weekend. We came because we had the card, and the guy came out, and he literally took 2 minutes. We sat in the car, he walked around, torqued everything, and we were gone. It was like Formula One pit stop. Like, we were in, torque, and we were out. It was like fantastic, right?
And we have that every day. We have like during this season here, it's like we have 5 or 6 cars sometimes waiting just to get torqued, and it's just a matter of one guy going out, boom, 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 like you said.
Yeah, and there was no extra charge for that. It was all part of the regular service. We came, and there was no wait. It was beautiful. So
but I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, well, and you know why? Because this time I remember, like, I think it was like 3 years ago, we had left, and a few weeks after the tire change, we heard this like this noise, and I remember bringing it back, and one of the mechanics at the shop said, "Oh, the nuts were getting a little loose. We have to torque them. You didn't come." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." But now you put we get the card, and it's just a good reminder. So so one of the other things too, like the last time I was in the shop, we chatted about oil changes, and typically, when we do the tire, we always say, yeah, we haven't done the oil in a few months, do the oil or whatever. But we were talking about regular oil versus synthetic, and why would I get one over the other? And what are the differences here? What would I consider?
Well, I mean, obviously, the first thing is whatever your vehicle manufacturer recommends of oil is what you should always be putting in your car. We got a lot of guys that come up and can you change the grade? We put this. That's more of an old school. I don't know if you remember back in the day, we used to switch from summer oil to winter oil.
Yeah.
That is not a thing. It is.
Oh, really? It never was?
Well, it was back then because the engines were different.
Right.
Now, the engines are totally different now, and they basically, some engines now, they're like Toyota's come out with a 016, which is basically water. If you see oil, there's no, it looks like you're pouring water. That's how fast it pours. So you got to go with what your vehicle manufacturer tells you. And synthetic is the way to go. Now, even on the older cars, synthetic is proven to be better on cold starting, which is what our climate has, because it basically puts like a silicone on your pistons. And so even on cold starts, you have oil. Whereas with the older conventional oil,
it had to get there.
It gets to the bottom and it just flows down. Synthetic sticks. Right. So that's the major, and with synthetic, you can run 10 to 15,000 kilometers. The European ones, you can go 20,000 kilometers.
Wow.
So yeah, and so there's a big difference.
So can I, if I was using the old conventional oil, can I transition to synthetic? Is that?
Yes, you can. You can transition back and forth. That's another myth that was going on for a few years, where we were hearing people saying, "Oh, I use synthetic, I can never go back now." Yeah, you can. It's another myth. Yeah.
No, that's good to know. And is the synthetic, in terms of cost, is there a huge cost difference between these? I know you said, you can go like maybe 2 or 3 times as long without between oil changes.
So if you factor that in, it's cheaper.
Okay.
For your original oil change, it'll be a little bit more expensive. But if you factor in what you're actually paying versus how many kilometers you're doing, you're actually cheaper.
Yeah, I mean, if you're doing a 5,000 versus 15,000, you're not having to.
Exactly, and even on a 5,000, like that conventional oil change, we're like at about $58 now. Whereas on a synthetic oil change, we're just under 90.
Right.
But you're going double, minimum double on a synthetic.
Yeah.
So you're always up.
So we've talked tires and we've talked brakes and we've talked oil, but what other you do other things at the shop? You're not just like a trifecta there. You have a whole bunch of other things that you do in the shop.
Yeah, we're from replacing wiper blades to replacing engines. We do it. We just don't do things like this year. We're actually getting out of the air conditioning field. I don't want to get into that anymore because there's just too much involving air conditioning, and I'm talking in the ways of laws, in the way of people understand. I think they got to open air conditioning shops that just specialize in that, because it's such a hard thing to make people understand. Because there's so many components to it. So when you fix one, they think you fixed their whole air conditioning system, and then they might have another leak. So I found it to be more of a problem. So I like to keep my customers. So I like to be frank with them. So stuff like that, I'd rather just not deal with it because it's too stressful.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. And if there are so many parts to the air conditioning system, and especially on bigger and maybe even some of the electric vehicles, the way that things are going there, they've sort of changed those up a bit too. So
yeah.
So you drop engines, you do
transmissions. Yeah, we don't overhaul transmissions. We just replace them.
Right.
So we'll replace them with a used one, or same thing with engines, timing belts. We do all. Yeah.
So it's an end-to-end shop pretty much then, Ken?
Basically, yep. Yeah. End-to-end is, yeah.
So there's something else I wanted to ask you. I'm just full of questions tonight, I wanted to get this out of the way because I've had this conversation with a lot of people and it always ends in disagreement. But let's say this. Let's say I buy a brand new car and the dealership gives me one of those, you get the little maintenance cards that says you should bring your car in on these scheduled maintenances, right?
Right.
In order to keep your warranty in good standing. So part A question. Do I have to go to the dealership for service or could I come to you?
No, you're not required. They can't even tell you legally that you have to go there. They can recommend you going there, but no, as long as the person or shop you're going to uses the OEM parts, or OEM approved, they're called,
Right.
parts, then you are warranty approved. You can do whatever the dealership does. The only thing you can't do is a warranty job.
Right. Now, what are some of the benefits of coming to your shop for those services as opposed to a dealership?
Well, speaking of warranty, if you come to our shop, your car's under warranty, you have 40,000 kilometers, and we see that, let's say you need a tie rod. Well, a tie rod is usually covered under warranty. We'll tell you, Mr. Customer, you have an issue with the tie rod here, but I see the car's new. You only have 40,000 kilometers. Bring it to your dealership. The dealer might, not all dealers, but I've heard a lot of stories with a lot of dealers doing this, where they won't tell the customer until the warranty's over. And then they'll say, hey, you need a tie rod now. And now you got to pay for it. So there's a benefit. And obviously, we're not as expensive as dealers. And again, then you're getting the more one-on-one. Some people like dealers, and I find not too many do. But again, it's more what you're looking for. When you come to a shop like us, like a smaller shop, you're getting more of that personal service.
Yeah, and you do provide that personal service. I've used you, and we've known each other for a while. And I think I had one of those experiences where you had one of my cars up, and you said, hey, this particular part, and I went to see the dealer, and
really?
Oh yeah, no, everything's fine, but it wasn't. And then I had to go to a second dealer of that make, and then the second dealer said, oh no, this needs to be replaced, and it was a warranty item. And you were like, I remember you were like, Guido, like, this is a warranty item, you should bring it in. And that was beneficial, right? So I asked that on purpose because I had that experience with you, and I kept saying to a few of my friends who say, "You got to bring it to the dealership." I'm like, "No, you don't." I used to think that too. That too, but I saved a lot of money on certain repairs or certain work without going to the dealership. So, so like I said, I've used your services, I think now for almost 15 years, if you can believe that. You have a family-owned business, and I'm gonna say, I felt like from day one I was part of the family. Like I got to know you, I got to know the rest of your family in the process of this. But a big thing was that we had a trust between us, right? We had a trust relationship that you helped build. I've watched the way you treat other customers, and you're very consistent. I don't get preferential treatment over other customers. You're very consistent with all your customers in the way you talk to us. But did you go into this with a specific business philosophy when it comes to customers and customer relationships to make everyone feel that way?
Well, Guido, first off, I want to thank you for trusting us through all these years. And you basically answered the question for me. It's a business that requires us to be honest, and not just honest on what we tell you your vehicle needs, even honest in what the parts we buy, because I try to buy quality parts. I always make sure that the warranties are good. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it's what we put on your car too. It's not just us serving you or giving you the right advice. I just love to deal with people like you, like just people in general. I just love to deal with it. It's a passion of mine. When someone recommends us to their friends and family, you can be rest assured we're not going to let them down. And I guess if I had to sum it up in one word, it'd be integrity. Integrity. I guess that's what we base our business on, and it's a combination of things, but that's how I would explain it, I guess.
You made me remember that a few years back, my in-laws drove down to Southern Ontario from up north, and my mother-in-law's brakes, they were squealing horribly. And we brought her to the shop, and you did her brakes, and they were bad. Like, you were like, she wasn't going to make it back home. So you know what? We've had people come from up north. We've had folks come over from Woodbridge. We've had recommended some people from Toronto, and they've all come to your shop over the years as well. And none of them have come back to me and said anything negative. It's always like, what nice people, what a nice experience. And so it makes it easy for me to keep recommending you.
And that's amazing to hear.
It is. You know what? It's like I said, consistency, and you're doing it with integrity is what you're telling me, and I believe it, and I think others would see that too. I want to thank you for doing the chat with us, and if is the possibility maybe you come back later in the fall or winter. I want to know if there's different things that we would talk about in the fall or in the winter in terms of that maintenance. But if there is, and you want to reserve that, or maybe what we could do is I could ask some of the listeners if they have questions. And maybe you can help out do like a Q&A session. I'll tell you what they're asking and we could record the answers if you're up for it.
Of course. I'd love to do that. I'd love to do it even again in the winter time, like you said.
Yeah, right on.
Thank you from the bottom of my heart for having me here.
That's right on, Cam. So listen, I want to thank you. I always say the last question I reserve for everybody is because I always say I selfishly ask all these questions. Is there anything you'd like to leave us with before we let you get back to your shop and the business?
So I'd love to offer anyone who's listening to your show $10 off the winter changeover. And if you need brakes, while we're looking at your car, we'll pay for the taxes, or it'll be a no tax on brake sale. But you have to tell my wife Rita, my son Marco, or my daughter Alessia, who all work at the shop, by the way, that it's Guido's Car Talk. They have to say Guido's Car Talk.
Okay.
So for us, they're not getting it.
We got a treat.
What? Just so they know that they're getting a good deal, they don't even have to say it before we give them pricing and everything. They can say it after we've given them pricing, because it's an honest sale. Like, it's an honest.
Right on. Deal. Okay, we're gonna have to let folks know. So Guido's Car Talk will get you $10 off of a tire changeover.
Right.
And no tax on brakes if you need brakes.
If you need brakes, yeah.
Oh, that's pretty sweet. I'm gonna use that code.
You got it, because it's your show. You're gonna get a guarantee.
Right on, Cam. Listen, I really appreciate this. I'd like to thank Cam Campley, owner and operator of Spin Cam Tire Craft in Richmond Hill, Ontario. He gave us some spring and general car maintenance tips. It's much appreciated. I want everybody to stay safe on the road with Cam's advice. I'll have his business contact info if you want to drop by and have an espresso with him. We didn't talk about espresso while you get your car serviced. So thanks again, Cam.
Thanks to you and to all your listeners. Have a good night. Take care.
All right, now let's hear from another friend of the podcast, Chaser's Fresh Juice.
Hi, I'm Richard Chase, introducing Chaser's Fresh Juice, a local business in Toronto. We've been in business for over 20 years, initially supporting our local Toronto area and now servicing all of Canada. Chaser provides fresh organic juices, ingredients including citrus zests, dehydrated garnishes, and fresh citrus peels to enhance any cocktail or recipe you can think of. We have successfully supplied restaurants, distilleries, craft breweries, and bakeries across the country. Reach out to orders@chasersjuice.com for any questions you may have. We are a customized fresh juice company, and I'm sure we can help you. Thank you.
Chaser's Juice is one of the best juices I've ever tasted. If you get a chance to, reach out to Richard, or there's several restaurants in the Greater Toronto area that serve his product as well. So check that out. Now, let's get to the last segment of the show. It is the Four Fans Talk Sports, courtesy of It's Not the Ref. And you can watch the It's Not the Ref podcast on YouTube. Just head over to YouTube and do a search. I'll have the links in the podcast notes as usual, but you can enjoy that content as well. So let's get to this segment, and let's go. Folks, welcome back to It's Not the Ref podcast. We've got Clark, we've got Brian, we've got myself, Guido. Tonight, missing is Rolly, who's driving up north, and he'll hopefully join us on the next podcast. So, guys, how you doing? Happy Easter weekend.
Happy Easter to you.
Happy Easter.
Hey, right on. We got a full docket today. Like we got Bossy, we got the Jays, we got the Tiger Woods, some Formula One, Matthews, a little bit of video review. But a couple of things happened today too. Or last night even, right? You guys were mentioning Tom Wilson.
The crash into Campbell.
Yeah. Was it bad?
Hey, took his helmet off, stunned him for a while. He didn't. Fortunately, he's a guy just came back from a major injury, so he didn't leave. But the look on the Leafs' face, and when they showed Kyle up in the rafters there, losing his shit when he saw Wilson take a run, and anyone else that might not be as discussed as much, but Wilson with his history and his tendency to do this. It's hard to give him a pass, but it looks like once again the NHL is giving him a bit of a pass with a 2-minute minor and probably a small fine, and that's it.
That's ridiculous, eh?
Yeah, it was the kind of play that reinforces what you think about Tom Wilson, no matter what it is. If you think he's a dirty player, he put himself in a position where he would have to run Campbell and didn't try to avoid it at all. If you think he's clean, then, oh, well, he was stuck in a position where he would have had to bail out.
Right.
You can justify it.
So let me ask you.
I don't like him, so I get to say he totally ran Campbell.
Yeah, I agree with you, Clark.
We're all going to agree because none of us are Tom Wilson advocates here. So yeah, absolutely. And I didn't even see the play, so I'm just going on precedence here.
Yeah, I guess the thing that gets to me, Guido, on this is here's a guy with such a lengthy history and as the term they use, he's got a rap sheet that's a mile long, right? Yet for some reason the NHL, whether it's the refs, the league, the player safety.
Did you just say whether it's the refs?
Well, they gave him a call, but I thought it was a little too less. But yeah, you can mark that one down.
April 15th, Brian said it's the refs. Sorry.
Yeah, well, they blew the call on that one. But
hey, you know what, Tom? Let me ask: Tom Wilson or Sean Avery?
Neither.
Who's the biggest? Who's the bigger jerk?
I'm going to say Wilson all day long.
Absolutely.
Avery was a punk.
He was
he was a punk.
Yeah.
He mouthed off. Some of the stuff he did technically wasn't illegal when he did it. They changed rules because he did it.
Right. Yeah.
But it was legal when he did it.
Yeah.
Wilson stuff.
He didn't hurt anybody either. He
he
bruised egos, and he said some stupid things in his career. But Wilson's going to end somebody's career one day if he isn't reined in.
It's too bad. It's too bad somebody can't take him. He'd never survive. He'd never survive on the Montreal Canadiens. They would have traded him, a long time ago with the attitude that he's got. Yeah. Speaking of the Canadiens, Carey Price starting in goal tonight. I'm looking over and the Canadiens are out shooting the Islanders 13-6. That hasn't been the case for the Canadiens the last several games. They're usually the ones being outshot 13-6. So I wonder if they are playing a little extra hard for Carey so that he doesn't have to carry the load tonight a little bit. But
yeah, I'm sure it's a big boost, morale booster for Montreal to have him back. Look, the guy was the lifeblood of that team for the last several years, right? And if you look back to last year's playoff run, what a star. He stole the show last year, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, having him back has got to be a morale boost. Unfortunately for the Habs, it's a little too little, too late for anything meaningful to salvage this season. But
I think he was able to get in because they were able to clear salary cap space with long-term injury reserve monies, and his contract was able to come back into play. He was probably ready a while back, but they were trying to figure out the mathematics of it.
What's this? Wait a second. Let me write this down. Montreal utilizing the cap. Wait.
Not to win a Stanley Cup, just to get a guy to
so
play
it's okay to
game.
break the rules.
God forbid Montreal's utilizing the cap to their advantage.
What advantage? Wait.
Especially with Allen out, it is an advantage to have him back.
How?
If you're trying to win games,
they're not trying to win.
So it's not a problem to tank when it's the Canadiens either.
Actually, I think it's worse if they do any more tanking. I think the way that the math works with the draw is if they finish last, they might not have the best odds. I think it rearranges, right? Because
No, that only happens for Detroit.
Doesn't matter.
Are you still bitter about a couple of draws ago by chance?
Those drafts have worked out seemingly, but I wouldn't complain if the odds helped them out one of these years.
Hey, the good thing is Edmonton's not high up in the draft this year, so that takes out that probability.
Here's my thing. As long as the Habs don't have to pick third, because that third overall pick has been a disaster, right? Galchenyuk, KK, who's no longer with the Habs. Anyways, all in there. Look, one thing that also happened, and I want to kind of get to that. We always talk about the old guys, right? The changing of the guards and things. Mike Bossy passed away.
Yeah.
And I wasn't surprised. I think we knew he was sick, but boy, I remember him playing, and a good friend of mine back in elementary school was a big fan of him. And I learned a lot about Mike Bossy, that way, through that. So it was kind of sad. And he and I were texting back and forth a little bit today too. But he only played 10 seasons.
Yeah, you know what they said too was his favorite spot, sort of that old Phil Esposito spot, right in the slot. Probably the best pure goal scorer, pure trigger man to ever play in the NHL. I'll go out on a limb and say he was the best.
Wow, better than Gretzky.
I'm not saying a better player, a better pure goal scorer, like shooter, and he took a beating, like the cross checks and the hacks and the slashes, and it ended up being his back that put him out after only 10 years. But when you look at the records, they were saying if he'd have played more seasons, it would probably be Ovechkin chasing Mike Bossy's goal scoring record as opposed to Gretzky's. He was that good at putting the puck.
Well, nine seasons, over 50 goals, and I think he did those. We'll get to that later. Right? I was going to talk about it, but I'm going to park what I was going to say. Nine goals over 50 seasons, and even that last season, he had 38 goals, 37 assists, and he was having back problems, right? So I don't know, just says a lot about him. I remember watching the transition of the Islanders kind of taking the torch from the Canadians there, and he was a big part of it. Do the Islanders have the success they had without Mike Bossy?
Do they? No.
No. They had. Not to take anything away from him, but you can say that a lot of the pieces they had there, they assembled a real nice team for a bit there.
They did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They had a dynasty. And you know what? I read a really good article today that linked, it talked about Bossy and Lafleur. And sadly, Guy's also suffering from lung cancer. And if you think those were the two scoring giants in the 80s, right? If you think that both of them sort of linked, today with their illness and with Bossy passing, but they were phenomenal players. And that was back in the day when the game had a little bit more of that hacking and that tough style. That was back in the day when the Broad Street Bullies were around. So it was a little tougher back in the day when we were getting whacked. Thank God they didn't have a Tom Wilson playing back then, but worse in the Flyers to some extent.
In between periods, Lafleur would have a smoke and a beer and then he'd go out and score a hat trick. So.
Yeah, the Demorier hat trick.
Right? I don't know.
Yeah, no, Mike Bossy was a great player.
He was a great player. Moving along. The Blue Jays, home opener. They kick things off. Are they for real? Are the Jays for real? Are they out or are they in this year?
They're in.
By the way, those are the Canadians. They were in town and they went to the Jays game and supported the Toronto Economy, bought some jerseys. I like the powder blue jerseys. That's why I was, can't say that the Canadians don't support Toronto, right? I mean, I'd rather wear that jersey than the other reverse jersey that the Leafs have, but.
Did you hear Beaver's designing a Jays jersey?
I like Justin Bieber's music. I do. I just don't. I think he should the hockey thing. And anyway.
Yeah, I hear you.
So I started watching that game, and I was like, man, this isn't good. Like they were down 4-0 in the first inning, and I'm not a huge Blue Jays fan. My team's not even there anymore. The Expos, they've been gone for a long time. So I was kind of like growing up. I was like, Montreal Expos, Detroit Tigers, and then it was like Toronto Blue Jays. But now, I feel like I still don't have a baseball home, even though I'll watch the Tigers and the Jays or whatever. But opening night, it was 4-0 right off the bat, and I was like, man, this is ugly. Are they for real, or are they like the Leafs? No defense, all offense.
No, I think you know what, they got some good pitching. Their superstar that they brought in though, Barrios, is tanked in 2 games already.
Yeah.
He's having a hard time finding his way, but. They've got an offense. They're kind of like that old, it's that old theory that the Edmonton Oilers had in hockey. You score 6, we'll score 7. And they've got the offense with Vladdy and Springer and Gurriel and Teoscar. They can knock it out of the park anytime. So
what you're saying is they are like the Leafs.
No, I said they were like the Oilers.
No, but the Oilers actually had some defensemen who would contribute.
Not defensively.
Offensively.
Offensive. Yeah, Paul Coffey. That's the offensive defenseman. I think the Jays are for real. I think we'll see them. They had a terrific run last year, and they missed the playoffs by 1 game.
Yeah.
They kind of got off to a slow start and then came on strong, but it was too little, too late, and I think they're picking up where they left off last year, and I think we'll see them. We'll see them in the playoffs this year.
It's fun. They're fun to watch.
I think so too.
Yeah, they're a fun team to watch right now. I can kind of roll with that.
Thank God for Jays in 30 on the TV though, because baseball is such a long game to watch.
Oh my God! And you know what? And we didn't even talk about the video review in baseball now, with the bases and. The one thing I'll say is it happened kind of like the video reviews I did see, they were happening pretty fast.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking, do we really need more video review? Like it's already a long game. Like we need
the Tigers already got a video review win, like right off the bat. So I'm down for it.
As long as it doesn't add another half hour to the game,
Well, I think calling video review on plays and outs and that, as long as they're not getting ridiculous and starting to look at balls and strikes and the like. But
that's what we need robotic umps for.
Sorry, Clark, go ahead.
That's what we need robotic umps for.
Yeah.
You know what? I'll get to the other topic in a second. I said to you guys, I'd be a horrible behind the plate umpire. I would be horrible. I have no sense of, the pitching box. None. The batters, either the batters or the pitchers they would just I'm sure they'd take a bat to me because I'd be like calling balls for strikes and strikes for balls.
I'm not for the robot. I think I'll tell you why. I love the fact that a pitcher has to kind of figure out what the ump is calling, and you'll see that certain umpires will have a tighter zone, and some will have a little wider. Some will allow a little, to paint the corners and the like. Hey, it goes without saying there are some brutal calls where something's way outside and the guy you're going, what are they thinking? But I think for the most part, they get it pretty right. I think if you went to robotic, that would bring a really.
I think you could build some variance into the robot if you really wanted that, and then you wouldn't have those really blown calls. You could have on this day it's a little bigger of a strike zone, and on this day it's a little bit smaller. If you really want that variance, I don't. I like consistency when it comes to that, but.
Wait.
I wouldn't complain if
you want consistency in reffing.
I think if you're going to say that this is the box where a pitch must go, then it's the box. Yeah, I think.
Right. So what's the difference between this is the box where the pitch goes and this is what a tripping penalty should be like every single time?
Because I don't think you can robot that one. I think you can robot the strike zone.
No,
you can robot the strike zone pretty much like the way you can the way they use the replay for line calls in tennis and the like, right?
Yeah.
So that's.
I mean, I think it sounds pretty easy. You hook a guy with your stick by putting the blade around and pulling, and if you just skate by him, it's not hooking.
I think you fundamentally, Guido, be careful what you ask for, because I think you would change the game absolutely fundamentally far worse than you could ever imagine.
Now, that said, I mean, like, there's some stuff you should let slide. I mean, we're back to hockey because it always comes back to hockey. There's some stuff that's light and should be, you should let slide. I want consistency there too. If you're going to let it slide every time.
Sure. So I'm with you.
That's where I don't see a difference there. That's like, there is some stuff that as the rule is written, that would be brutal to call every single time, but you got to be consistent in how you're calling it.
I'm with you. So talking about consistency, Tiger Woods, he comes back. I think I heard the word miracle more times than I hear magical if you ever go to Disney. He was there. He came back after, the horrific accident. I think that might be his final score. He was a plus 13. Nice to see him on the course. I was happy, as a person, as a golf thing. Meh.
Hey, the fact he made the cut, his swing is there. His skill as far as what's between the ears is still there. It's a tough course to walk. I think he fatigued, and that's why he started to fade. It's nice. They were talking about him winning and what a miracle. I don't go as far as that. I think it was great to have him back. He's always been good for the game. He's pushed, notwithstanding his down period where he was he was not received well in the public eye for some shortcomings that he had. But as far as golf, nobody's pushed the needle further for the game of golf than Tiger. So it was good to see him back. But to me, him being the main story kind of sidelined a couple other stories that were really, really good in Scotty Scheffler, Cam Smith, and absolutely phenomenal last round tear that Rory McIlroy went on. So those are the things that I'll remember from this Masters. More so.
I turned it off. I think there was a comment one of the guys made about, how hard the course was and how hard the golfers had it. And I couldn't listen to the announcers anymore. I was like, they're playing on this beautiful course. It's fantastic. And these guys are talking about how hard it is. And I got what they were saying, the conditions, the wind and the course is a difficult course, but it just, in the context of what's going on in the world, I was like, I can't.
Exactly. I hear you, buddy.
So, what do we got next? Oh, quickly, Formula One. Ferrari is ripping it up this season. Charles Leclerc is running away right now, but it's still early. I think there's only three or four races into the season. But check out Mercedes. Like even though Ferrari's been hitting the podium there, Verstappen for Red Bull's been bitten by a bad car, and Mercedes still second in the constructors. So some surprises there, I guess, a little bit.
Yeah, Hamilton's a bit of a surprise for me, but mind you, he started way back in this last race and moved up quite a bit. So, but
he's always hanging in there. Like Mercedes is in that fourth, fifth spot, and he's going to steal like a third place or a second place or even a first. The thing I haven't been enjoying about the Formula One, and like not just even this year with Ferrari, last year and the year before, is whenever the safety car comes out, it just resets the whole race. And I wish there was, I don't have the answer. I wish there was a way where they could still have some, maintain some distance of what they had before the safety car came out. I'm not saying don't go to the pit stops, but I don't know. It just seems to reset things. And in one way it's exciting. And then another way you're kind of like last
it's an advantage to whoever's in second or whoever's behind.
Right. Like would Verstappen have won last year if that whole safety car thing didn't happen? And it's probably, probably the answer is probably no. Anyways, we're not going to change that.
Same rules for everybody. They all know it going in. That's the only thing I say. Everyone knows it going in.
Your buddy, Austin Matthews, 50 goals. Now he's at 58, I think, or something like that.
Yeah, Whythouse's put some pressure on him, though. He got the Hattie last night. So
you know what bothered me about this is that
he plays for the Maple Leafs.
No.
I'm just disappointed he wasn't wearing the black and yellow jersey when he got the 50th.
I just want to say it wasn't 50 and 50. Like the Toronto Maple Leaf, the Toronto media cannot rewrite what 50 and 50 means. And I've never seen such a celebration for 50. Like I get it. They're just waiting to celebrate just about anything right now. I mean, I get it, but it's not 50 and 50. 50 and 50 is you score a goal in your 50 goals in your first 50 games.
Who says that? Is that according to Guido or according to anything?
It's always been that way.
No, look what it says. Look what it says on
plus minus used to be a great stat.
Look what it says. Austin Matthews, 50 goals in the last 50 games.
I know.
50 50.
The Toronto Sports Network rewrote the rules and they said 50 and 50 because it's his last 50 games. So I'm not taking anything away from the accomplishment, but they don't have to rewrite the way things are all the time to suit a narrative. That's all I'm saying.
Wait a second. I think you're just being sore about this, and that's my honest opinion.
I'm happy for him.
Let me ask you a question. Did he score 50 goals in his last 50 games?
After the season started, and he played a number of games, he did score 50 goals in his last 50 games.
Exactly, and that's what your graphic says.
No, but it wasn't from the start of the season. Like there was a period of time where he didn't score.
Nobody's saying he scored 50 goals in his first 50 games.
No, but that's what it always meant. 50 and 50 was 50 goals in your first 50 games. I'm not taking it away from him.
Where does it say that?
When you're at game 50, yes, that's what that meant.
50 and 50. Not 50 in your last 50. Like I don't know. It's a Toronto media reach for me. That's all I'm saying. It's just
I just think you're being sore.
I'm not just the Toronto media then. It's everybody but you.
He scored 50 goals in 50 games.
He did score 50 goals in 50 games, but it wasn't 50 and 50 the way we mean 50 and 50.
It wasn't the right 50 games.
That's it.
Doesn't matter when they are. If you score,
I didn't say he didn't score 50.
Should we also exclude empty net goals? Should we also exclude goals against bad goalies? And how many goals did he score against Detroit? Because man, those shouldn't count.
You know what? He scored 50 and 50. He's the top goal scorer right now. Give him his credit. I don't know why you got a sour on him.
I'm not sour. I'm just saying it wasn't they're just rewriting the definition. You know why
he's got a sour on him.
They're rewriting the definition. Okay, we got to end this with a video review. We don't have too much time left. Video review. I always have to throw a video review in here. I'm gonna roll the video footage here. Check this out.
So this slide trying to generate. Happens again. Into the puck. Red's got some rebound.
So they get
Gallagher, love it.
They get the goal, and there's a coach's challenge on goalie interference on this. On goalie interference. They're saying Gallagher interfered with the goalie. Watch, right?
I saw it the first time around. I know exactly what you're complaining about. And yeah.
Right here, right there. You see? He comes in.
Yeah, he hits the goalie.
Really? So you would say that's goalie interference?
It's absolutely. It's not goalie interference. He interferes. Is he not hitting the goalie?
I would say that I've seen that called both ways before, and
absolutely.
I don't know. I mean, I think it's just like we were talking earlier about the Tom Wilson one. If you want to see it one way, you can see it one way. If you want to see it another, you can see it another. In this one, I mean, I think it looks a lot like the Ottawa defender guided him into his own goalie. But I could also see an argument that he made no attempt to stop. So I could see it go either way. I don't.
So Guido, what I was thinking, I didn't see this play before. What I was thinking you were going to show me was something where the goalie absolutely didn't get touched. So you have to admit that the goalie is being hit by the Montreal player there, whether or not he's pushed in or not, but the goalie is being interfered with.
I think what I'm most surprised about is that they thought it was enough to overrule the call on the ice.
Yeah.
That's I think if I saw that, if they had blown it dead, said no goal on the ice, I'd understand that one a lot more than the fact that they overruled the call on the ice with that.
The goal stood on that night. The goal stood. It was the first call in I don't know how many games. The Habs have like an 80% goal challenge failure rate this year. That one actually stood. They said that was not goalie interference.
You brought a goalie interference call that wasn't goalie interference in here to gripe about what?
I'm just saying.
They challenged what? How dare they challenge?
No,
you're saying they got the right call, and you're still griping about review.
I didn't make a judgment on whether they got the right call or the wrong call. All I said was on this night, this was not considered goalie interference, which is a shocker because I have shown you video clips where the player breathes on the goalie and it's called goalie interference. So
yeah, but it's the same. It's the same as Clark was saying with the Tom Wilson. One day you get somebody that does that, and they're going to get called. They're going to get a suspension, and then you get this with the Tom Wilson, and it doesn't get called. It's not consistent. It never will be 100% consistent. You're going to get different calls, different refs, different personalities. It is what it is.
We need some artificial intelligence on the ice, maybe. I don't know.
No, all artificial intelligence has bias too.
That's our wrap for today. It was fun again. Thanks for chatting. And our hats and hearts go out to Mike Bossy.
Absolutely.
Boy, have I ever taken some heat on the 50 and last 50 games conversation about Austin Matthews post that episode going live. But it is what it is. We're just trying to keep it real. I'm sure we'll talk more about that in the coming episodes. We are at or near the end of the show, and we always like to end it on a high note. And the high note that we have for you today is a song by Whythouse. This is Chris Hale with their new song, Let It Roll.
Let's go down the break of dawn and let it roll, let it roll, let it roll. We got the sweet love and melody, baby. Come closer to me and let it roll, let it roll, let it roll, let it roll. We got the sweet love and melody, baby. Come dance with me, sexy lady. Cloud 9 down the hallway. All I'm smelling is a sweet perfume. We can do it yours or my way. And just tell me and I'll push on through. It's been so long since we had the house alone. No kids, no friends, no phones. Oh, well, let's go now. Let's roll now. The break of dawn. And let it roll, let it roll, let it roll. We got the sweet love and melody, baby. Come closer to me. And let it roll, let it roll, let it roll, let it roll. We got the sweet love and melody, baby. let's go. Oh, let's go now. Let's go now. Break it down. And let it roll, let it roll, let it roll. We got the sweet love and melody, baby. Come closer to me. And let it roll, let it roll, let it roll, let it roll. We got the sweet love and melody, baby. Come dance with me, sexy lady. And let it roll, let it roll, let it roll. We got the sweet love and melody, baby. Come closer to me. And let it roll, let it roll, let it roll, let it roll. We got the sweet love and
That is Chris Hale and the Whythouse with their new song, Let It Roll. All the information will be in the podcast notes for you to connect with Chris and the band. Folks, we're at the end of our show. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being you. Stay safe and hope to have you back next month. Take care.